for the DLC reveal.
Elden Ring is?
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it. Elden Ring. Hey, what's up, everybody? Elden Ring has a tendency to, like, catch my attention a month or two later out of the blue. Like, I'll just be like, oh, you know, we'll all start talking about it. Seems like Elden Ring's always there. It's always waiting.
It's crazy though to get like a bestseller, like a huge resurgence after just the DLC, not like a show or anything. You know, like Cyberpunk did that one show and then they got a huge resurgence, and then this one it was just literally just the DLC reveal, and everyone, I guess people may have bought it on consoles before and then bought it again on Steam or something. I don't know. People double dip.
Yeah, I mean they do. They double dip, they triple dip, they start looking at something that makes sense to them, and maybe buying it a second time on a different system or buying it later. I know people who buy the collector's edition after having the original. You know, like what? Yeah. What were you going to say, Johnny?
Like some of these are such like random phenomena where something gets mentioned and then everybody en masse jumps to do something. Remember when Monster Hunter World got mentioned because of the trailer of not Monster Hunter World, but the new Monster Hunter, and people started playing incredibly, like to an incredible amount, Monster Hunter World. It had a huge resurgence in like people playing it.
Dude, you know,
one of those like everybody jumps.
A cultural phenomenon.
Yeah,
Dude, what's crazy, like this is so weird, and it's gonna sound like I'm on acid or something, but so the reason I got Helldivers 2, before I got Helldivers 2, I haven't seen any gameplay. I've seen like a minute or something someone streaming it. I've never looked into it, but for some reason out of nowhere, when everyone was like first playing it and stuff, I had a dream that I was playing the game without having seen much of it, and then I woke up with like a huge itch to get it. So I'm like, dude, what if it's like the collective consciousness? You know,
that's the FOMO playing its tricks, dude.
The FOMO just entered my brain. I didn't even see anyone play it. I didn't even have that FOMO at all. And then just my dreams just
I mean, if we can prove that a small amount of electrical charge in a human brain can make you think that somebody's in the room with you, it doesn't in any way shock or like make me wonder if there is like a conscious electrical, you know, like some kind of overarching change in the electrical system in a bunch of people in a room. I mean, we were just talking about this in the podcast yesterday in the voice chat. Hooligans, you'll talk to somebody who gets in trouble for murder at a soccer game, and they've done a bunch of investigation. They'll be like, why did you stab this guy? And they find out it's some dude who's never had violence in his life. He said, I walked in and the room felt evil. And as somebody who's gone to mosh pits before, depending on the band you go to, I can tell you straight up, your entire friggin' mentality changes depending on like the people in the room.
How you feel, you see it, because people in that environment will like spit on the ground. They will like litter, they will toss, you know, cans and like do all types of stuff that they wouldn't normally, because they feel like that's
it changes you into your monkey brain, right? Your monkey brain turns on. It's like, let's grab everybody and eat them. All right, well, that was a weird intro for our podcast.
Great.
I just want to say thanks to everybody for showing up. We missed Wednesday because I had some stuff going on. I figured, you know what, let's just rechange Wednesday. We switched back to the other provider. You should hear less ads, if not zero ads, because to switch to this provider means no money for the podcast at all. That's not a bitch. It's not a complaint. It's just the way it goes, because we had issues with the other provider who was screwing up all the stuff. So now we've gone back to Anchor. But with Anchor, the only way to not have issues is to go back and look at all 500 episodes and find whichever 5 are in there with some music from a game that has now been claimed. Or music from Twitch, which I think Dance with the Dead is in a couple, and Twitch was fine with it and had no copyright, but the moment we switched to YouTube, we were getting copyright claims because we were using it for the opening because they said it was okay. So, in fact, they gave clearance to everybody, but YouTube doesn't care. So, the only way to do this was to switch. We missed Wednesday because I was trying to figure everything out. You should be able to find us in most places. I apologize if you can't. Just give us like a couple days to fix it. It's been a bitch, but, you know, I just said, let's take the loss and actually have people be able to listen versus consistently moving around. I was really excited for just a couple days, too. I moved, and I was like, dude, uploads are fast. Audio uploads are sweet, man. People are getting the audio version in, like, 9 minutes. And I was all, oh, yeah, instead of 6 hours of the next day. And then one day I just woke up, and I was like, the podcast is gone again? What? but at least the little generic mention they gave me finally told me what the problem was, which was awesome. You know how it is. You do something,
man.
you do something a company doesn't want to tell you because they want to protect their secrets, but you're like, I need to know what the hell's going on. Like, and then finally this new company's little auto alert warned us, which was very nice to see. But we're back Friday. We got a bunch of games: Helldivers, Final Fantasy, Balatro. Some cool stories about what's happened in the past couple weeks. Some cool tech that's coming out.
Yeah.
There was a couple
Last
trailers that have popped. Last Epoch.
Popping.
Got a bunch. So,
Yeah.
thank you for the super chats. The best place to listen to the podcast currently, and I think from now on, is actually going to be YouTube, just to be the easiest way to get it. That's just for now, the future, until I can figure out what to do. C. Cray, $7 super chat. Lads, love the podcast. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be back. Let's begin by asking Johnny, what have you been playing?
Okay, so I started playing Final Fantasy VII.
That sounded
today.
very serious. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I love the way you said it. You're like, okay.
I full took like a day off work today and next Monday to just like sit back and have time to play the game.
No shit?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Okay, continue. Very cool.
Yeah. So I'm sure we'll talk about it. And I've also been playing Sons of the Forest, which is another game I wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah,
So
how's
that's
1.0?
Yeah, so 1.0, it's a solid survival game, but that still means it has all the trappings of survival games
Janky
that are
combat.
kind of problematic. Yeah, janky combat. I mean, you know how it is, Abzi. I saw you reply on Twitter to me like about the combat. It's the
Why
same.
do they do that? Why?
Dude,
just make the combat good.
No exaggeration, it's Valheim combat. Of
Yeah.
course, it has, some other weapons and different. It has a lot of cool stuff you can get, but the roots of the combat is very much the same. Like, okay, avoid a melee hit and hit back, that type of stuff. Anyway, so they haven't really iterated much on the combat from the first game or any other in the genre, sadly. But they have a lot of cool stuff when it comes to exploration. It's a big friggin' island that you get to explore, and you have transportation modes like a glider and other things I don't want to reveal that really change how you
Gliders are like
the enjoyment.
Are like a big thing in survival
Yeah,
games
but it's
now,
a good glider, dude.
Good
You know
one?
how
Good
like
one?
they
Yeah.
say, like not all gliders are born the same. There's
Yeah, they
like-
say that all the time.
Yeah, there's like gliders, and this is the
Yeah.
latter type,
Oh,
which means the good type. Like you can glide indefinitely, basically. You don't lose altitude. It almost seems bugged, but it's glorious.
I remember from the first Forest, I think one of my favorite things, even though the combat was trash, the way they programmed their the NPCs, the enemies, the AI, it was really, really cool. The way they kind of fuck with you, and sometimes,
it is because they like when they take damage, they run away and they like climb a tree and they hide. It is sort of cool.
They still do
but
that.
it's janky.
Yeah,
It's It's janky.
Yeah.
But what I would say, dude, the building system is amazing. If you like
the first
building.
one was too. Yeah, the first one was.
And
pretty
you
dope.
can avoid building entirely, by the way, if you don't like it. You actually don't need to. In fact, the game pushes back if you want to like lay down roots and make a base and stuff. You're gonna get raided continually. It's all sorts of difficulties, hurdles you have to get through. But if you enjoy building, it's for me like the best building system I've experienced in one of these games.
How's your AI helper? Like he helps you build stuff and
yeah, you can tell him like, hey, bring me logs. He'll bring you logs. You can bring me fish, or follow me and help me out. So that's pretty cool. And then like the free build system is the highlight, because you have these templates that you put down, like a blueprint you put down, and you're gonna build a cabin. You just input the logs or whatever, and boom, right? But you can free build too. So you take a log, you can cut it in half or along the axis, or in 3 parts, or just the tip. So you make like a defensive wall type thing with sharp tips. So you can do all this type of stuff and build whatever you want out of that. You can make like ramps, stairs, full houses. It's really cool how it comes together.
Do you need like structural integrity like in Valheim, or can you just like kind of put walls?
Yes, in some ways, you do. So for example, let's say you're building a house. The way you would do it is you would set up some, structural upward logs,
foundations or supports.
But then what you can do is you can add like supporting corners, like angled, smaller logs, and then remove the ones in the center that were load bearing before.
Right.
And it has this load bearing system where you can't remove something that's load bearing. You first have to find and remove, the other parts that are kind of, it works really well, man. I actually found very little jank in the building itself. I would say that's like one of the highlights of the game, alongside the exploration, creepy enemies, and so much cool stuff that you unlock: weapons, gear, and the crafting system. I think everybody has seen it now. You open up your big like tent, and you have everything. You can bring it to the center, craft different things together, and you get so much cool gear, weapons, and different things. You're constantly unlocking, finding new stuff in caves. So that's pretty rewarding. So overall, it's a pretty solid release for sure.
And this is the game you're taking the day off to play?
No, Final Fantasy was.
Final Fantasy is the one. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So speaking of building for games, this came up. We were doing a behind the scenes like chat yesterday, and people were asking me like, with survival games, how do you rate them, and like what matters in building? Does it matter that it's easy to get the resources? Does it matter that it's easy to build? Like does a game like the one Enshrouded, is that a little easier? Is it Enshrouded? Did I get it right?
Enshrouded.
I tried to let it roll off my tongue in the hope that it was right. Okay.
You're correct.
So one thing I did come up with is I'm not a good builder. We've done No Man's Sky, Absy and I, and it's like it's just walls with a thing that you need inside. Like it's I mean, you come over the hill and it looks like something that Rob Roy would go, I will sleep on the ground versus sleeping in there. But here's the thing. What I do like, man, is when they've got templates, and we're starting to see it more. Like even if it's the walls. So in the back in the day, like Minecraft, when you first started, you really just were like, I'm gonna make the shape of a door or whatever. And we see more and more games doing like, here's a wall with a door, here's a wall with this different type of door. Now we start to see ones with buildings. I pretty much dig it because it lets anybody. I would even be okay with a game having a high premium on a template build. So in almost some weird way, it's like, do you want to build with the template? If you do, it's 20% more resources than if you build it by hand or you build by wall. I'd be like, fuck, that's because that even then I could be like, oh, I really want this wall, but I don't have the extra 20. Fuck it. I'll just, I'm gonna sort of like make the template myself. Dude, I dig it when they have that kind of stuff, because then you can have the things that when you come over the hill, it doesn't look like Hobbleton. It looks like Hobbington.
You know what's really cool, man, is you can combine both building systems really well. So let's say like you can build a tree house, but you don't want to bother with free building it yourself. Boom, here's a tree house that looks great. It actually takes less materials to build than if you do it free-handed. But you can add stuff to it freely, right? So you can add a platform to it. You can like connect something else that is free built. And then boom, here's another blueprint that connects right to it. So it all plays pretty well together. You're not like married to one way or another.
Yeah, I haven't checked out the new Arc. Is the new Arc? I mean, I know the new Arc has all kinds of like issues. But does it have a good? Is it the same building as the original? Has it improved its building? Has anybody played it? I have no idea. Okay. Yeah. It was like, it seemed like one of those games that you just know is going to be an issue. And the original had such bad FPS that I was just like, I think I'll wait. And it sounds like this has continued its problem.
I think for me, like what sets a survival game apart, what makes one like good or one that I would want to play is basically the flow of the game loop,
the building,
like just
of the loop,
just everything all together, like how it comes all together, because a lot of them can be very, very similar.
Keep talking.
But some of them, I feel like when I launch it, when I launch a certain survival game, some of them can be very, very daunting. You know what I mean? You launch it and you're like, but other ones just flow very. I think Valheim one thing very well, where like you kind of go in, there's a crow or whatever, and then you kind of progress and feel like you're kind of progressing and learning. You know, your skill is increasing as you know, it just has a really good flow. So I think that's like one thing that really, really sets it apart. Because a lot of survival games I open and it's like, oh, fuck this, you know, I have to do this and to gather all these. Doesn't have, like, for example, Pacific Drive, it's not a survival game, but you feel like there's this, you get into like this state where everything's moving. You know what I mean? Where everything, like, your cylinders are firing and you just want to go for one more run, because like the game loop of you collecting stuff, and then you're like, oh, I can upgrade this, which allows me to do this, and it just had really, really good flow. I think that's very, very important to me.
Real quick, Dev Guy, Ron, 25 super chat. Hello, gents. Happy Final Fantasy VII release week. Also, best way to spend the Friday evening and listen to the pod. Thank you very much. Thanks to Big Mac, who's also in here. Dave's in here. Dion's in here. SBZ's in here. Trenton, $5 super chat. Apologies if you've already said, but are you reviewing Skittles? SSKTJ. Suicide Squad.
Oh.
Suicide Squad.
Oh my god!
You know,
Killed the Justice
yeah.
League.
That was a lot of letters. I have not gone back to Suicide. I played it. I had some fun. It was repetitive, but then I really haven't. I mean, once like all the other stuff started happening with the podcast and stuff like that, I have not really returned to that. I haven't returned to a lot of games, so probably not review it, because that's like, it wasn't on the list. So.
It was the same with me. I was enjoying it, but I bounced off briefly and then never.
If I hadn't had Final Fantasy and like some other games I'm still reviewing that are their review code was like a month early. So when I get a review code a month early, I just celebrate it. Expeditions was super early. Like any of those that are really early, honest truth is that's what keeps the channel going right now. Like I do have to look at cost, and I could release a Suicide Squad review. The honest truth is I don't think anything I would say would be unique. It would either be along the lines of somebody else, or it would be a mixture of other people. And instead, when money's on the line, you got to make money to put food on the table. I'd rather do a new one and instead of regurgitate stuff, because you just have less people. And we talked about this last week. It replaces time to cover new games if I'm covering an old one with the power outage and stuff. Things just fell apart. Yeah, the interest of a new game. It's just higher,
isn't it?
Yeah. I wanted to review it a lot, too. It's just things fell apart time-wise, and this is weird, but almost every winter this happens. You know, almost every winter, I don't know if it's just like luck of the draw or what. I think one year it was in November, then the next year it was like in February, and this time it was January, where shit just falls apart, and there's always difficulty there. But moving on from there, thank you, first of all, for the super chats and stuff like that. We're going to talk about some of these purchases. I don't know if you guys just saw the news pop, but we'll talk about a lot of those in the future. Somebody else asked me about the AI reviews, and I just see that. Will I continue to do the AI reviews? You know, I've thought about that. They're the most fun reviews I've ever done, but the AI is too good to be stupid now. And I would actually have to roll back ChatGPT to, what did I use back then? Two or three? Yeah. And it's at 4.5 now, you know, and but I'm not going to lie, guys. I would love to do a 2.5 ChatGPT review of our podcast or something, and just like play it at the starting of the podcast. So if I get a chance, I'll play with those things. I definitely I hear what you guys are saying when you want that stuff, but right now, man, just scratching to get back on the surface. When it comes to you taking the time off to play Final Fantasy VII, Johnny, before we jump to Abzy and what he's playing. Did you plan ahead of time, or did you wait till the reviews came out? Has this time off request been since the game got announced?
No, it's been a couple weeks prior, but it was before any reviews.
It was before
or anything.
Reviews, right?
I just knew I wanted to, sort of clear my schedule and play as much as I wanted, and be able to, take breaks, like. Work out in between. It's not like, I have work and then podcast and trying to fit everything. It's more like, okay, let's take a step back and be able to enjoy everything in its own time.
That's cool, man. Putting your money where their mouth is. All right, Abzy, what'd you play throughout since last Friday, I think? Since last Friday,
now I'm playing Final Fantasy. I'm 15 hours in. But
Deep.
I beat Yakuza on Wednesday. So that was
you did?
Yeah, that was 2 days.
Nice.
2 days before Final Fantasy came out. I was aiming to beat it before Final Fantasy came out, and it happened. Pacific Drive here and there, and 'cause Pacific Drive is like I can just hop in, do a couple runs, hop out. You know what I mean? It's really cool for that. And I started a new roguelike called Balatro, which is awesome.
It sounds Italian. It's like Balatro.
Balatro. I think it means Joker in something. And I don't know.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
It's all about the Jokers. So basically, what it is, I think it's made by one dev, and it's a roguelike. It's a deck builder roguelike. Okay, don't get scared yet. But it's poker. So it's based on poker hands, and your poker hands net you points. And what you want to do is basically optimize the most points for the least amount of hands. You know what I mean? It's not like betting. It's not like normal poker where you're playing against others, right? So you have like a bunch of cards, and then you have a certain amount of discards where you can discard some cards. You have a certain amount of hands you can play. Every time you play a hand, it'll give you new cards for the hands that you played. But it's really, really interesting. You can get really, really mechanical with it. So I think it's less gambling than it is. It's very much a puzzle game, because what happens is that you go into like these levels basically, and each level has a certain amount of points you need, and they're called blinds. So let's say you go into the first level and it's a small blind, and you need to get 300 points with the amount of hands you have. You just have to craft the hands you have with the cards you have to get the certain amount of points. Now, every time you beat the level, or every time you beat a level, you go into a shop, and in the shop you can buy upgrades. You can buy permanent upgrades. These things called jokers. So these joker cards augment certain things. So for example, there's like a multiplier. So when you score a hand, there's a multiplier next to it, and you can get a joker that says every time you play cards that have hearts in it, we add to your multiplier, and you can have up to 5 of those, sometimes 6. As well as you can level up so in poker you have obviously full house and 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, and all that. And what you can do is there's these things called celestial cards, and what they do is they upgrade those hands. So you can go for builds, right? So I'm going for like a double pair build, where I'm gonna level up double pair, and then that's gonna be the thing I play the most. And then I'm gonna get jokers that help me get the most points. So it's basically optimizing your deck and your build to get the most points possible for the least amount of hands. And it's just very addicting. It's very fun. I think there's just tons and tons and tons of unlocks. And what makes a really, really good roguelike to me is just the ability to have any certain run kind of influence your play style in a drastically different way than the one before, you know? So you feel like you're doing something new every time, so that repetition doesn't, you know, wear on you. And I think it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that it's actually done really well, which is cool. Pacific Drive you haven't beat. I'm assuming you're just doing
Pacific
the
Drive,
later round.
But I fixed 2 of my quirks so far. But
Your
there's
car
a quirk.
quirks?
Yeah, there's a quirk that I instantly regretted fixing, and it's that when you turn on the wipers, your fuel gauge goes right and left with the wipers.
Yeah.
I don't know why I fixed it. I guess I was so excited to fix a quirk that I fixed it, but I could have totally you know, left it on. But the other one I had was pretty annoying. It's like every time you put your car to park, the front right door opens.
Yeah.
So some of them can be annoying. Yeah.
I feel like that one must have a higher chance of happening. It just feels like everybody got that. It's like everybody getting the first ending to Starfield.
Yeah,
it's like everybody got it.
I heard of others getting it, but when you go into like the diagnostics tool, you see so many different combinations.
Yeah, it's confusing.
You know, I wonder. Yeah, it was confusing at first. I had no idea what that was.
Oh, speaking of building, to go back on that for a second, we were talking about games that do it well or templates. The one game that I actually find frustratingly convoluted, and yet at times so simple that it becomes complex, is Starfields. Trying to get a link between one fucking outpost on one planet to another one is an exercise in absolute frustration, because what it says it needs, it starts to use verbiage. And by the way, I'm just bringing Starfield up. This is not the only game that does this. But they bring up verbiage that becomes one noun can mean 2 things sometimes. Yep. It's like you'll be like outpost interplanetary link. You need this fuel, but then the thing is called fuel. And you're like, all right, so that's the fuel I need, or any fuel? No, you need this fuel. Okay, where do I put the fuel? There's no fuel. Where's the fuel? Like, I'm holding it in my hand, running around the outpost because I refused to look it up last night. And I couldn't remember from the review period how to even do that. Sorry, go ahead, Johnny.
No, I'm just saying I had the same experience. And once I figured it out, I was like, okay, I have to link it like this. But like the process of understanding that from the text was almost inscrutable. And I remember even having to watch someone do it specifically so I could, understand everything.
And they're not the only ones, especially when you get a game that's got a lot of parts and it's got like cycle loops.
Yeah, when you're trying to like do the whole like, oh, okay, you're syncing multi-planet and then multi-system. Yeah, it's...
And then you're like, or sometimes you'll be all, well, wait a minute. If I have a place that mines H3, how can I put it here and in the outpost output so that the H3 goes to somewhere else? And then when it gets there, then you have to figure out a way to get the H3 out of one section of the outer of the link into the other section to fuel it. So you're like, wait, it's already there. No, it's not. You have to ship it out over here, back in.
I actually really enjoy, sorry, real quick, Abzi, on this. I really enjoy when games remove the logistics and they give you some narrative excuse for it. So for example, they say, well, your inventory across
is shared.
Is just shared. Because we have this teleportation system where, you put stuff in this box and it's like quantum physics, it's present everywhere.
It's a magic
I'm
box.
okay with that. Yeah, I can suspend my disbelief if I don't have to like manually move stuff.
Okay, gotcha. What were you going to say, Abzi?
No, I was just gonna say that's why I really, really like Factorio. I think it's a really, really good game because it has so much depth and a lot of moving parts, and you have to connect a lot of stuff and do so much shit. But the way you progress through the game and learn all these things bit by bit, it never feels overwhelming because it just feels like a step. You know what I mean? It feels like baby steps to get to where you want, which is really
Satisfactory
really
is the same way, right? Isn't Satisfactory?
I think so. Yeah, I didn't
both?
really play that one. Yeah, Satisfactory is like the first person version of it.
It looks so good, but when I see the trailers, my brain is like, ain't no way, man. No way. My shit'll look messed up. Like, and have you ever, you build something and then you don't check if it all works. You get to the end after you built 50 of them and you find out at number 42, you fucked it up and you have to hit delete. Even if you get all the resources back, you're like, oh no, delete.
Delete. Everything.
Yeah. But and No Man's Sky does this too. That's where the conversation came from. But building in games with templates is awesome. But they got to make sure that, because a lot of games like to do 2 or 3 or 4 resources. It's not just the parts in Starfield. It's also the fuel for some things, but the fuel for other things is not required. And you're like, why is energy required here, but fuel is required over here? Oh, well, it's a spaceship flying in and out. And you're like, okay, but until you put fuel in there, you don't see a spaceship land. So in your brain, it's very easy to look and go, and by the way, when I first put it in during the review period, I remember putting one in going, I can land my ship here? Because it's a landing strip. So I don't need to buy the landing strip, because if I put an interplanetary trade platform here, there's a landing strip right here. So I put it down, spent the money, jumped in, and then it's like, no, you still have to hoof it 450 feet to the thing. And you're like, what the fuck, man? But same thing happened in No Man's Sky when I accidentally bought a ship and was stuck on that hot planet with no resources and lost 600 hours worth of gameplay time. So it's like, shit happens, man. It's like, what would you do? Robinson Crusoe, bitch. You got to figure out how to get out of here. Moving on from there. So you played Pacific. You played, are you going to play Final Fantasy then, Abzi? Did you get Final Fantasy?
Yeah, I'm 15 hours in.
I know it's going to sound, we are talking about Rebirth, right?
Rebirth, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
Because I couldn't remember if you got 16, so I just wanted to be clear. What do you think of it, like as a whole, without spoilers?
I'm enjoying it so much. I loved. I really liked 16. I was like a huge advocate for it because I really liked the combat system. But this game just made me realize how much less it was all around, you know what I mean? Other than the narrative, which I think was fantastic in 16. The combat was great, but the difficulty it didn't warrant much use of anything, really. It was a very, very easy game, and everything else was like a backdrop almost. I had that same thing that FF14 suffers from, which is like, it's the same devs, but it's like dialogue, and then dungeon or boss fight, and then dialogue. There was a lot of down. But then playing this, I'm like, holy, there's a lot of game here. Like it's very, very, there's so much game here. There's a lot of content. I when I first entered like the first region, I thought that was the map, and I was like, oh shit, the map is huge. But it turned out it was just like one region, and it's not that big if you know, because you're using chocobos and stuff, so you're getting around pretty fast. But no, I mean, there's a lot of mini games. I really like the combat. It didn't the combat was like messy until it clicked. I was like, wow, I'm really terrible at this combat, because I played Remake and I got better at it later on, but I haven't played it in a long time. So going into this, I was just like, oh my god, this is difficult.
There's no human in the world who hasn't said what you just said. Last night the Discord was just filled with people going like, I'm shit, and I'm like, no, it's shit at like easily parsing. It is the wildest combat in Rebirth. You're like, what the fuck? There were times in Rebirth where I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I would just hit A to pause the time and then look where people were, because so many things are going on. You have to pause it because you got a fucking dog doing a backflip, a chick leaping up in the air, transforming, the black guy Barrett is fucking like layering people with the guns, and then you're just standing there. And I'm like, was I not hitting the button? Am I in the middle of a transform? What's happening? Or for a while, I was trying to figure out how to build up to some moves, and some moves activate and others don't. And it does tutorialize. It does say, once you unlock this, you can unlock this. But I missed what I needed to unlock the first time. I knew I needed to. But when I was first playing, I missed what I needed to do, and I'd be like, I can drink a potion. That's fucking it. I'm getting smoked. And I'm like, okay, great. And you just go out there and get zombified. It took you how many hours before you... Well, do you do real time or do you pause it a lot? I guess would be the other question.
Oh, I pause. I barely use. I sometimes use the shortcuts, but I always like go into the skill menu, because by hour 10, that's when like everything clicked, and I was like, okay,
right,
you know, I'm grooving, because like I learned how to play all the different characters.
Keep talking. And my dog's sick.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Sorry about your dog, by the way. That's not fine. But yeah, so by like hour 10 or something, I became, you know, pretty proficient with all the characters I have so far, which is Aerith, Tifa, Cloud, and Red, and who was it? Barrett. Yes. So by hour 10, I was like, and the reason why I use I press X and I go into that whole menu is because I started just like, I go and I optimize the strategy. Like I bounce from character to character a lot. And one thing I really like about this game, though, is that they don't make it hard to switch characters up and switch your team up. You have 3 presets so far. I think you get more. And you could just like on the fly, not in combat, but outside of combat, just switch your team up with like a press of 2 buttons. But it's really fast. It's really nice. And I like how a lot of stuff you find. So let's say you have like this, you know, check marky thing where it's like, go find those like 3 things around the map. But you know, you go to like the second region, for example, and you expect like it's gonna be the same, but something drastically different happens, and you're like, oh my god, this is like a whole new thing, or like a whole new side game or mini game. And I really like that. I just feel like the world is content full. There's just like a lot of content. I like the verticality. There's a lot of the vistas, and the maps are really cool. I think the level design is pretty cool. One thing though is that, and I understand why they did that, but the movement, like kind of climbing and going under stuff, is very janky. It's very, and I get that like they wanted to make it snappy, right? Like they wanted to make it like, okay, you can do this fast, but that just resulted in very awkward animations.
Bro, and he literally falls up to jump. He doesn't even bend his legs, so he falls down to go down, but then to go up, he just goes in the same way. And you're like, oh, come on, guys. And sometimes you'll get to the end of an area, you hit the button and he won't do anything, or he'll roll. And then other times, well before you come to the edge of the cliff, Cloud is like, fuck ye! And you just leaps off. And you're like, you guys have no idea what boundaries are. I can never tell. And so you'll get that thing where you're running and it's going down, and Cloud is doing this almost. It's not smooth. It's like, boosh. Boosh, on the way down.
Yeah, it goes like,
I gotcha.
Exactly. That's awesome. The movement, because like I feel like movement is like the first thing you notice in a game, and just how the character moves, right? And it was kind of like weird, but other than that, yeah, it's awesome. I think for graphics, so I'm playing on performance mode. Now what helped with the blur what helped with the blur is turning the sharpness up on my TV. That
Yep.
helped a lot. But
Yep.
there's a reason why they blur. It's because some like you could see some pipes, some doors again, and some textures are really low res.
Bro,
They're like
those are
looking like
straight up
3
sort of a million Sega
300p
Genesis
or some
textures.
shit.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's a pipe near a door, and you have to
Yes.
screw a thing, and you look at that pipe, and you're like, no,
Yeah, and you're
no,
constantly
that's
looking
not
at it.
allowed to be in this game.
Yeah,
It's
and they
amazing.
still do some things. One other complaint I love, one of the things I love about the game, as I said before, is there's a lot of like just one-off mini game things, like just like one-off, like, hey, this is cool, this is a neat thing. But they do this thing that I also disliked in Remake, where it feels like they kind of stall in the middle of a dungeon. Where you're like, okay, now you have to move this huge thing which moves at like 1 meter per 20 hours, and you have to drag it across for some reason. I don't know why. Or like you have to like
that was
You just have
terrible.
to pull a lever. So you have to like hold triangle for like 3 seconds and then pull a lever.
Can
and
I
then
ask,
drag the thing.
Johnny, you
I don't
played it
understand
about 15 hours too, real quick? I just want.
No, I have less. I have something like 8 hours.
Okay. Have we all got to the beyond no spoilers? Have we all got to the fire section
What's the fire?
where there's
Yes.
a fire? There's a fire
The initial fire.
in a town.
Should
Yeah.
we
Oh
say?
yes, yeah.
And I'm telling you, dude, that was Red Dead 2's prologue for of 1,000 times. Like, I was like, I will never bitch about Red Dead's prologue ever again. I mean, holy shit, that is
And,
slow.
dude,
and I was
like, the original
"Please." It's
game
not very long, but it's stunningly
Yeah,
like
because
gnarly.
like the original game, it was a tiny location.
Yeah.
You would step into, the scene takes place, and we're basically done, right? Like but they expounded on it so much. I mean, I appreciate it. They gave,
So did I.
in a
So
way,
did I.
in a way, like it was a lot easier to parse actually what happened in that sequence.
Because it was 3D and you were in it, you mean?
And the
That
way
makes
they
sense.
they said the writing and everything was a bit more straightforward than the original, because the original was like, wait, so what happened with the mom then? It's like, this is
true.
a bit more.
That's
Okay,
a good
here's
point.
what
That's a good
happened.
point. Yeah.
It was a bit more. What's the word? Like
Just
like
concise.
a puzzle you had to work out. In the
I felt
prior,
it was more
like,
concise in this
Yes.
one than the prior one.
and in the old one, it was a bit more left up to you to figure out what you were seeing. When you see Sephiroth do certain things, it's like,
Right.
wait, what's happening to him? What's going through his head? And they kind of spell it out a bit more, which I liked. I think the story lacked a bit of clarity in the original, and it was sort of left up to you to connect the
Can we
dots a
agree?
bit too much. Go
Can
for
we
it.
agree though that this game makes the first one feel like a tutorial, like a ground zeros of this game or some shit? Like I'm like,
Do you mean like the first part of the remake?
yeah, the remake feels like a
Remake?
because it feels like a precursor to the real game, which is this. I feel like, I mean, it's
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
the
yeah.
side quests there weren't all that good, and you just kind of,
And also when you come out of there and you look out in the open world and you see the honest truth is I think the consoles are great, like power-wise for their cost. I'm pretty happy with their power. But you see the open world versus what happened in Remake, and you start seeing all the problems. You see like the pop-in, which on mine version was just pretty egregious in some areas. You're just like, damn, that's a pop-in. Like, that's a feature. That's an enemy. But because of the bigger open world and all the stuff you can do, yeah, it feels like Remake was a bit like a like Half-Life side story or something. Because this one also starts in the city anyway, so there's a little bit of city still that occurs, so it can feel like oddly defined in that way. I do like this
I do
one
like the
pretty much
cities.
in all ways better, though.
Yeah.
Most part at least. What were you gonna say? Go ahead. The cities.
I like the cities feel alive, like the there's like NPCs walking and talking and doing stuff.
And
I
I've
like
seen
that.
something in this one that I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
see
the
in
cities looked. Sorry, yeah, they repeated a lot, or they didn't do much. But what they did do, I said that in the review. There was something very like the girl and the guy taking pictures and stealing the camera from each other to take the picture of the other one. It repeats. It's not Red Dead, but whatever it is, it felt way more alive than the prior couple games I've reviewed, where a city has 11 of the same jackasses in it.
Yeah.
And,
Also,
and that
I-
magic.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go for it. Continue.
No, I was just gonna say I love the card game. I think it's way better than.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
way better.
I think it's like Gwent on steroids. It's just a better version of Gwent. It has a lot more strategy, but not too much. I think it's just the right amount of like RNG and strategy, and it's I've been having a blast with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. You were going to say something about the magic, Johnny?
No, so there is a certain magic to what you were describing, which is as you walk through the town, there is this like, what would you say, like random discourse that people are having about their own goings on. And if you're sort of walking naturally through the town, that works really well. It gives you the illusion that there's stuff going on. People are having their, whatever, like that guy's waiting for his wife. This other guy is, it sort of breaks down a little bit when you spend quite a bit of time in just one location, because as you said, some stuff repeats or stops, and that's where you start to see. But it works so well when you're just exploring the town. And the towns have been, what I was going to say that I didn't see in the first part as much, is just a careful and like artistic design and like choices of stuff. Even, some of the early towns, like there's literally 4 houses in the first town. It's a tiny location, but there's so much like kind of detail, and you look and there's a lot to see that I found much more than actually some, even like the big city places in Midgard.
Because it wasn't like placeholders. It did look like somebody's house. There was debris everywhere. There were little things like sort of laced out to make it feel like it was there.
I felt the design lent itself so well to the actual world building, like the lore of a certain city. Like you could see, oh, this place was like taken over by Shinra and like repurposed and stuff, and you can see that stuff, and you can see like the old versus the new houses, or like the one where it's like the slums and the, not really slums, but like there's like a lower section with like fishermen and stuff, and then an upper crazy section. So I really appreciated that as well.
Did you guys notice though, and I think this is just their thing, but it is noticeable to me now, there are a number of interactive elements in the game that require you to go to a very particular point and hit a button, the triangle location at the bottom of a ladder. And so when you get this open world game that's all flashy and you can flip and you can leap off of rocks, and then when you come up to the ladder, it's all so highly structured so that when you come up, you actually, I've caught myself going until I got correct, and the ladder was like, yes, you can climb now. That I don't know if the new one will do this. The new one, most likely, guys, will be a PS6 game. I mean, if you look at the years wise, there's a very good chance if you look 2 to 3 years. I don't know if they'll adjust that, but I would love to see a little bit more freedom where there's a little animation, where like you're running towards the ladder, you grab it, swing up, because they're pretty close. I think they're pretty close right now. They've sort of made things more flexible now. I don't know about you guys too. The materia system, I think, is pretty good. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I thought it worked really well. I like doing the auto special attacks and putting that on other people's weapons, so I didn't have to stop the world and control
auto
them.
Unique.
Yeah,
on Tifa is great. She unbridled strengths. It's really great. Yeah,
and it just feels nice because you can pause it and you can control it, but you don't have to. And so when you put that materia on somebody, you're just sort of like saying, okay, they're going to misuse maybe mana or whatever. Occasionally, they're going to just sort of go to town, but it's like at least they're doing something instead of hearing the same basic attack go off 100 times and a guy's in the air and the air difficulty is still not corrected. I'm sorry, it's still not perfect for getting into the air and hitting air guys. There's still some shadiness sometimes where I'll be like, I'm trying to attack this guy with like air
the air thing is different now. You can't.
It is different.
It's different. You got to use like triple slash to get up there. I feel like I can't like get up there as Cloud or as Red or something. You got to use like certain.
Oh, that's the clunkiness with having one button for 2 things. So you have dodge or jump.
Yes.
And that's the same issue you guys were describing with the exploration, where you have either roll or climb,
jump.
Depending.
Yeah, or roll, climb, and jump. Yeah.
And that sometimes also misses where you expect him to jump, but he rolls.
You can jump with circle, like to get to an enemy?
No, he's saying, well...
No?
No.
Yeah, like in battle, you press circle if you're close by.
No, well, okay, if you stop and don't move and jump up in the air, you can jump up into the air. but it is not an instant attack the enemy. You still have to do all the other stuff, but there's also moves you can do from the ground to get to the air.
It's that airborne.
It's that it's very hard to not input anything, jump, then input an attack instead of doing what you do on the ground, which is already aim at a guy and then do the attack. So it's a reverse. It goes like this to get to the air.
using I think I don't know if that was worked the same way in the first one, but Braver now, like the first ability, Braver for Cloud, takes into account how high you are in the air.
Yeah.
So like using triple slash to get to like a bird or something, and then Braver all the way down to the ground feels.
I didn't know that. That's cool. That it's
like, and it does like an animation.
So you guys know if you hold, you do sort of one combo and you can tap and. So what I found weirdly enough was when I was holding the button, I had a much higher chance of going into the air. And I don't know if there was a tutorial I missed.
Square, right?
But holding square, So like when there was an enemy, if I held square, the chance, not every time, but the chance of going to the air was dramatically higher.
Yes,
so
I thought...
Is there a tutorial that I missed? Because it's possible, because it flashes tutorials a lot.
There is a tutorial about that. I think it's specifically with Cloud, his hold... combo is something that sort of like follows up in the air. So it's like you're launching.
I thought I saw that too. I thought I saw that, but when it went away, and I'm by the way, I want to point out,
it's very easy to forget, man.
And
there's
you can
so
go
many
to
of
their
those.
excellent glossary. By the way, their glossary is fantastic.
Okay.
Like you could have done that. I could have, is what I'm saying. But what I did was I just learned around it and kept playing and figured it out. But you can go to the glossary.
You can Red, the dog, is really fun to play.
Red's amazing.
Red's so fun to play, dude.
Once Red starts flipping out and starts doing flips and shit, and I love the holding the LB and then just auto, whatever move you wanted to do. And man, Red would be doing a flip, I'd do an LB, it'd leap to the other guy, do a move, leap to the other guy. And so I would do this weird thing where in my battle it'd be like, zhik, 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 back to Cloud. Yeah, it was awesome.
Here.
They did it. I mean, there's a lot of that. It's also messy as fuck. It's not all good.
It is,
because there's times where I'm like, I don't know what's happening on the screen right now.
I feel like it's weird because you can perfect parry and so, and I love those like parrying and countering and all that. But I feel like the game as this JRPG, or it used to be like a turn-based system, it almost feels like they expect you to get damaged a lot. And you gotta use cure, and you gotta use heal, and you gotta use items. So it's this like weird in between where you can't play like Dark Souls and perfect dodge everything and perfect block.
Right.
I'm sure someone's done it, but I feel like you're meant to like get hit. I guess.
Get hit. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
Sometimes
Johnny?
doesn't feel the best, but anyway,
no, it doesn't. But it's noticeable. It is a thing. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. I was just gonna say, for me, in the first game, I had this cadence with playing mostly with Cloud. And just playing mostly real time, there's this cadence of you build the stagger and then you do a big braver, and it's all like muscle memory for me. So it's very easy for me to use that way of playing as a crutch. But I've tried to kind of break away from that and trying other characters. And actually, one thing that helped with parsing, because as you guys say, there's so much going on that it's like I can't even see the enemies attacking me. Actually, it really helps to take a step back and see, okay, let me give yourself the opportunity to like understand what's happening around you instead of just attacking all the time.
Real quick, I want to shout out Nines for gifting 5 ACG memberships. Thank you very much, Nine, for that. Go ahead, Abzi. What were we going to say?
No, I said, I agree. Because that was my issue in the beginning, as I was attacking too much, like spamming square and then like trying to dodge and be like, flashy and Devil May Cry and shit. But then when I just took a step back, walked around and paid attention to like, they when an enemy does an ability, this little text pops up, like they're doing this like certain spell and stuff, and just figuring all that out helped a lot.
They have a lot of Sekiro things in it, Sekiro, where
there's a lot of parries.
There's a lot of parries, and you see enough, not always, but you see enough little not illustrations, but little moments where you can tell the enemy's going to do something. So they're trying to visually tell you, but these are guys who would fucking Armageddon a piece of toast to make, to make a sandwich. Like every single, their lowest level spell is high level spells in Skyrim. If you look at the look You're like, dude, this would be an Archmage spell.
Like a little squirrel doing a massive
yeah.
and
then they're all doing it, right? And then they're all doing it. And by the way, then you get summons, and you're like, and then you get what's the next? You put synergies, and then there's two. There's the normal specials.
And the
there's
ability.
And pretty soon, if you've got auto on, the fucking dogs are leaping in. Armageddon's going off. You've got a demon attacking. You're like, who invited? Beelzebub in here. Like, what's happening? Where did everybody come from? And what's funny is, depending on the difficulty, that can all happen, and you can just destroy an enemy group on the lower difficulty without even preparing. I've come into a battle and been like, oh, it's done, and it's done. You've already killed them. Everybody has just unleashed hell. But on harder difficulties, I do think it's a little messy. On harder difficulties, I do think that I would like it to be a little toned down, especially their particle effects. I mean, a sword swinging through the air has like 7 arc, graphics going with it. And you're just like, damn. And then the landscape, I do have to say, looks amazing, especially the first place when even the very first location, the grasslands, is the very Dragon's Dogma-ish. It's near the water. Yeah. It's dark, but it's also open. Also, it's lean in enemies. Did you guys notice that? The game is not necessarily Black Desert. It's not. There's not enemies everywhere. In fact, there's like times where it's a little lean. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I like it a lot. I like
the travel in the game. I really like going from place to place.
I like the chocobos till they get in the water, and they stop. I don't know why that bothers me so much, but I'm like, let's motor, and then all the chocobos stop to animate the swim.
The swimming altogether is sort of awkward.
Yeah, a little bit.
Little bit. Oh, is it? I didn't notice.
Yeah, bit, but I'm glad it's there.
It's not bad.
Because they could have just said, no, we can't swim. You're these amazing warriors, but you can't.
You're jet skiing on those chocobos too. When you get that chocobo going at full speed across the water, you're like, dude, does anything go? This is
because they're like, okay, they're buoyant and they're super agile.
Yeah,
so,
they do. They do actually give reasons for everything.
Yeah.
Let's see what else is going on in that game.
Like exploration is great. Just exploring stuff, finding some crannies, treasure. Yeah, it's really
absolutely fun. Yeah, and I like that they indicate like, okay, you're in a loot place.
Yeah. You got 2 chests.
They tell you like you've completed it because that tells me like I can move on. You know what I mean?
But on like normal settlements and dungeons and stuff, they won't tell you.
They won't tell you. Yeah, true. Yeah. You can miss stuff. Yeah.
I think I didn't even see that's on the main map where it tells you if you've completed that spot, right?
Like
it
has cache locations.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think I looked at that much because I just don't want to. But I agree that it's awesome that it's there. It should be there. It should be there in a lot of games because otherwise you're sort of minefielding a location. You're like, this is sort of this isn't really a game.
Triple checking like, did I miss something? It's nice to know.
I am having issues though with like not the lock on, but like when there's multiple enemies and I kind of want to hit like there, but he's just like locking onto a certain enemy. Like I got camera issues, so I don't know if it's like there's an option that says freeform or like lock on or fixed or something, and I feel like I need to change that because it's getting annoying. Yeah.
It is an interesting looking game though, because for every positive, when you slow down and start walking around. And you go around a corner, and you're like, damn, this is made of cottage cheese and hope. This is like barely put together. There are places that look so bad in that game, and some are in your face. That's even what's weirder is there are times where you're looking at a game, and you're like, wow, these are not textures on the edge of a precipice that no one would go to around a corner. It's like sometimes when you're just walking through the game world, and you're like, damn. They can, especially later on, there's some rough caves and shit. There's some definite, or when you start grabbing mine carts and you start to have to move them. I know that that's a part of the original game, but I got to tell you guys, whenever I see a mine cart and I see like the switch is where the mine cart's going to go, I just start to I get almost anxious because I want to get past it so quick. Because in this game, there are times where you just walk to the mine cart, push it a little bit, go to the switch the switch, go back to the mine cart, pull the mine cart, then push the mine cart to another place, then do a switch. And I think in the old days that was a puzzle. But in the current days, I wonder why somebody before me hasn't fixed it. We've got to the point now where I'm like, it was a puzzle then.
That
now
me too.
It's pissing me off.
That was like playing God of War 1 or something.
Yeah. Where you're like, dude. Go ahead.
There's something that I think you said last week or 2 weeks ago, or in a preview or in a review or something, and I love just the idea, like it's Final Fantasy and it's the camaraderie and you're moving with your team and stuff. I really appreciate that even the people that you're not currently using, they're still there. They're running with you and stuff, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
Yep. That is one of probably the best parts of the game, is the sense of camaraderie. I don't think it equals 15. 15 was a different style of game. But if you ask I said it in the review, if you ask everybody, there's always going to be a different one. And there's always going to be a different idea of what makes a Final Fantasy. And then each Final Fantasy feels a little different. But this one's pretty close to 15. It takes a little longer for them to get communal, like for them to get familiar with each other. But I definitely do like it when there's that feeling of people like being friends.
Yeah, like that's another small complaint. I get why games do this, but you get the same thing where it's like, dude, I've already learned all these skills in the first game. All right, I don't want to be relearning all these skills again, dude.
Yeah.
All these new weapons I'm getting with abilities that I've already learned in the first one. I'm like, fuck, give me something new, you know? That's like one little.
Yeah, I mean, and that it's like God of War did that, you know, like a lot of these games do it, and it definitely sucks. I just don't know how you get a.
Yeah, I don't know, because games now that you know, as you said, there's new people coming in.
There's new people, yeah, and they want to see, you know, triple slash, even though if you've seen it 100 billion jillion times, you're just like, dude, it's been every game. So it sort of works overall. I think it works, but when it comes to how the game plays, I think it is a step up from Remake. I think the battle system is a little messier than 16, but much more enjoyable than 16. Even though 16 has a DMC, there's something about this one that I do find highly enjoyable.
16's combat absolutely spoke to me. I loved it, but there was just zero incentive. Like, there's no game, and like in 16, there's these like really high highs, but there's no ways, like nowhere to utilize that gameplay a lot, or no way to like utilize the skill or the cool shit that you've learned through the combat. I feel like it was very lean on that. It was very lean on gameplay. Yeah.
And much more solitary. Again, this just got even though bad shit's happened, it's got a little bit of a happy-go-lucky attitude. 16 was like the dire. I mean, it had a DMC feel. Yeah, it had a DMC Game of Thrones. It was actually darker as a game. It's just, you know.
Well, I like the writing better in 16, but in this one, it's like coming, like as you said, like it's just like I get like cute feel, like, oh, you know what I mean? Except when they like hum and haw all the time and go like, huh?
Dude, the hemming and hawing, or when they get close to the camera and they're like, huh? I'm all,
oh my, dude, they know what they're doing, dude,
of course they do. Of course they do. I mean, you know how I know? Just because I know a little bit about fashion. The one girl's wearing suspenders on a skirt that doesn't go below her hip line, meaning you would never need suspenders. And it bothers me. But it's obviously all done because of, you know, and so you're sitting there going, dude, this Japanesey thing, but it still works. I mean, it's still, it's their own thing.
You become desensitized to it, you know? You go like, oh, it's another JRPG, you know, there's going to be some weird shit.
Yeah, so. And I think these guys they have the higher quality, for the most part, in this that most JRPGs can't compete. I mean, you know, they have a higher quality level. I did see I'm just going to call it stupid, but people can tell me if I'm wrong, but I saw an article that said Final Fantasy Rebirth is proof that like big AAA games can't continue, or that it's dying out or something like that. And I was like, I don't believe that. In fact, I believe some companies will do big ones, and maybe as the, you know, bubble burst and we're living in the pus-filled remains of like all of this shit, it'll take a couple years, but it doesn't mean they're going away. In fact, I think a game like Final Fantasy succeeds because it is big. It's a moment. And there's nothing, I mean, I don't know where, there's always this desire to destroy and decry everything. It's like, this is the end. I lived through E.T. on the Atari 20. That was the end. And they say they're realists. Yeah, it's a very typical person who's like, I'm a bitch sometimes, meaning they're just a bitch. And they just want to get that out of the way. So if you say it, they can be like, I warned you. Flip Cup gifted 5 ACG memberships. Thank you very much, Flip Cup. Everybody appreciate it, I'm sure. Or maybe they don't. Nyok says you played in quality mode, did you not? I did. I played in quality and performance. There were only 2, and I played in both.
Going from Yakuza to this, though, I do appreciate that, like, when you go from cutscene to gameplay and in-game cutscenes to like cutscenes, it's not as jarring as Yakuza, where it's like, I'm in a game cutscene now. Oh, now I'm in like this photorealistic. Right. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a little bit more consistent. Yeah.
I mean, their quality for models and stuff is really high. I mean, you know, even if we're just talking about soft boob physics, their quality for models is just really goddamn high. And
they got some good models.
They got some good models. You know, there's a reason why anime pillows look like that. When we have these kind of games, to me, it's a celebration of like the big event. It's always been a big event, and overall, regardless if you like them or not, there's a couple series that always deliver. And I would say Final Fantasy is pretty close to always delivering. Even, you know, I know 8, 9 had some detractors, but overall, this many titles, guys, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous.
Most of them are really good too. Like
most of them are.
2 is considered actually bad. I think.
And 2 is like from what, 20 years ago?
Yeah,
so like
in the 90s.
Oh,
dude.
way more, dude. Yeah, 7 is 20 years ago.
Oh wow. Oh my god.
The original 7 is
right. There you go.
Ago.
There you go. There you go.
Oh God, yeah.
So if you have a 30-year, that's like the 30-year-old guy going to school and being like, "Hello, young gentleman." That's if you're bitching about 2 being bad, dude, everybody's dead who made it. Probably there's probably only like 10% of the people alive. So move on. But yeah, it's awesome to see it, man. I'm excited to see what the next one is too, because I'm trying to figure out how big, what they're gonna do. If they're going to do 4, because I know they said they were only going to do 3, but let's be honest, if they continually do well, there's
as
this
long
idea
as it has a lot of content, I'm fine, man. I just want the mini game. For me, I know like a lot of people love FF7 stuff for the characters and story and shit. For me, I love the gameplay and being in that world and just like diving into it's very meaty and I really like it. So as long as they give me good content, I won't mind.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So overall, were there any, other than performance, and I mean, the game looks a certain way, and I would say it never looks always amazing. Regardless of what you're doing, there's always something there that reminds you it's a game.
There's always some compromise too, like in each of the modes. I found that the graphics mode, there's a constant feeling of slowness in the frame rate. The way it's delivered, I don't know what it is. We've talked about other games who have done it better, like Ghost of Tsushima. It felt very smooth. This one didn't for me. It felt a bit more like Horizon, where I did notice a lot of because I like to move the camera a lot when I'm walking around town. I like to look, like slow pan as I'm walking and stuff. And I noticed a lot of just kind of boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, and what's funny is it's delivered more solidly in that mode than it is in performance. Performance has more variations. So
wow.
I would assume it's some effect they didn't put on it, whether it be a very small amount of motion blur.
It might be.
Yeah.
But when I turned on performance, I was like, oh. Yep. And it wasn't funny. It wasn't even the combat. I was okay with the combat in
just
graphics.
Moving and
stuff.
It
was walking around town and panning. That, for some reason, didn't feel good for me. So, yeah.
Yeah. No,
I'm living with some of the,
some of the performance
artifacts and stuff. Yeah.
Dude, seriously turn up the sharpness on your monitor.
Absolutely. Adjust the sharpness on your TV. Like
it's up to 100 for me. I just maxed it.
I mean, they put a blur filter on there, so it's not like you're magically doing something that Tom Cruise is going to show up at your house and be like, "Oh my God, we need to turn off motion blur on all TVs." It's literally in the game. So it's okay for you to adjust. To hide, to blur them. Vaseline, like Shallow Hal. It's definitely noticeable. But overall, it's still a massive game, and it's delivered at a scale that's bigger than most. Yeah. I'm glad people are.
It feels like it's one of those games. It's like AC Odyssey, where I go in and I'm like, oh, I'm starting an adventure. Like this is a huge
for sure
adventure. I love that. Yeah.
Speaking of adventures, let's move to Expeditions. So I mini reviewed that, I guess. It's definitely a different feel from spin tires, mud runners, and snow runners, and I think a lot of people aren't gonna love it. Got pretty good reviews, but it's definitely got a gamified feel to it. Like you work for a science outfit instead of just being like a 4x4 guy out there getting new cars and finding shit in the mud. There's like companies that say, we did some airdrops, or a drone that we were using to take photos of the wilderness crash. Can you find the drone? That actually mission was pretty good, but it's very mission. There's something about it that just feels like very 1, 2, 3-ish, where something about SnowRunners was just like, dude, I'm just going to jump in my car and end up on the other side of these mountains.
The simplicity
at
of
some
it,
point.
it was,
Yeah. So there was that. Graphically, also, I think SnowRunners has a little bit more fidelity to it. This one has a roughness to it that's a little bit more noticeable, but in the end, it is still a mud like runners game. It is still absolutely got the same stuff.
Or is it like a different kind of loop?
It's got the same loop, but you're told the loops, and it sounds so weird, but that actually matters in this. Yeah, you're told the loop that's going to happen, and you can find loops in the game that are there, and you can discover them. But some of them were weird, like there might be items or stuff you need for scrap, and they drop it in an airdrop, and so you spend hours climbing out of a ravine that is, it's minute timing. It's perfect breaks. You get up to the top, and they give you some scrap metal. And I was saying it's just like a surgeon giving a Jolly Rancher for missing, like, the laryngeal nerve during a surgery. It's like, it's the smallest reward you could possibly imagine. Because, I'm sweating. I'm like, fucking, because if you roll the car, you're probably screwed. So I spent like an hour and a half getting to the top of this ravine, and I'm like, well, this airdrop must have something important in it. And it's scrap metal. They didn't even say, like, metal. It's like scrap metal for repairing your car. But it was like, dude, that's the smallest, most, just unrewarding
it's almost
reward.
Like insulting.
It was a little insulting. It was. But when you get a winch, man, you see a cliff, and when you buy the extended winch, you just fucking you put your own anchor down, and you just go straight down for like 150 feet. It is pretty awesome.
Is that different from
you're
the
still
other
trying
games?
to control it.
Is that like a better winch?
It's a better. I wouldn't say a better winch. It's just that it feels the extended winch works better in this game because of the locations. There's a lot of locations with sheer cliffs, especially the first places like Arizona. So it just feels like you're rewarded for using it, and you can use it to get places quicker. And because you're using gas all the time, so you're consistently trying to minimize your gas usage. So there's that. But it's coming off Pacific Drive, weirdly enough, I think there's a weird comparison that actually occurs there, because they're both about upgrading vehicles and getting scrap metal in your level and like picking through the level. Because let's be honest, even at Pacific Drive, the only time you really drive super fast is when you're trying to escape and trying to go through the portal. So they feel a lot more alike than I actually ever assumed that they would feel. But it's fun. You just go around, you drive, you turn some music on, and their sound effects aren't the greatest. But I think that's just sort of like, they're not too worried about it. You're listening to the engine a lot of times. It's just like a bunch of droning kids just going like, meh. Because this is a say you're like at 400 RPM for 3 hours.
We get it. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it is what it is. But so I released that one. If you guys get a chance, go check it out. I also did a March games video that came for the games in March, which is what we'll talk about here, I think, up next, which is games in March, because there are a ton. I only did
Dragon's Dogma
7.
Dude,
Dragon's Dogma, Rise.
Oh my god.
Go ahead.
Side note. They just released gameplay for the Spear.
Yeah, the Spear not Arcana, but the Spear.
Mystic Spear Hand.
Mystic Spear Hand.
And I found my main. It's Mystic Spear Hand. That shit looks incredible. It's like a battle mage, but an actual battle mage. Like, you know how games go, like, you can be a battle mage, but it just means you can wield a sword and shoot a
sword
fireball.
fell and board. Yeah.
Dude, he's running around. He kills an enemy, uses telekinesis on the enemy to push on another enemy, and then uses a clone. And I don't know, man. That shit looked awesome. I found my main.
Here's the thing, though. I weirdly haven't seen anything about Dragon's Dogma that doesn't look awesome, which I think is weird.
Even the archer.
Like the moves. I mean, there's some goofy moves and stuff, but yeah, it's like every one of those videos I've seen. Like I said, I think I'm just done, because I haven't seen anything that's made me go, oh, this might be bad or what. I mean, instead it's been like, maybe you can't do a certain move everywhere, like break a dam to flood an area. Like, of course, unless the world is filled with dams, that would be ridiculous. So other than that, go ahead, Johnny.
I was going to ask, do you guys like the existence of the stamina system in there in a game like this? Or do you find it like sort of limiting, a bit of a pain in the butt?
I like stamina systems. Like, for example, what game didn't have
Sekiro doesn't. Well, like Neo didn't have it.
Neo has a Neo is all about the stamina. So keep
Was it
us.
Wulong? Was it Wulong that doesn't? Because there is one of these games that did not have stamina.
Sorry, I'm thinking of Sekiro. I think Wulong had a different thing. Yeah, I might be confusing.
I think it depends on the game design. Obviously, like they have to work out a lot of stuff, boss moves, enemies, rule sets for everything, and make it feel good. But I like that limiting because I don't want to be able to just dodge forever or spam dodge or spam. You know what I mean? So I do like managing stamina,
and I'll be honest,
especially if it's done in the way Neo does it, because Neo just getting in that flow, it feels really good. But anyways,
did the first one have? I mean, dude, I don't know why I don't feel this way. If the first one had stamina, I never ran into it because.
No, I don't think it did. I played it for semi-recently.
Did it have stamina to limit moves in Dragon's Dogma #1?
I don't remember.
No,
it did. It's orange.
Did it?
Yeah, it's orange.
So let me explain
that's
why.
The thing around it.
I didn't run into it enough, whatever I was doing.
It wasn't limiting.
So, it wasn't limiting. So I think here, it's just stopping you from pulling the big moves all the time. I'm actually okay with that. If it's like that one, because I was sitting here thinking in my brain, I don't remember ever hitting that. Like, to the point to where, oh my God, I can't do this. Oh, wait, climbing. Yes, stamina was used for climbing. Remember, you would get to the top of something and your stamina would run out and you'd lose your grip. So I do. Yeah. So climbing.
I mean, Monster Hunter does it really well. I think, they have a good.
Yeah. So I never ran into it in one. Like I would say, if they make it as open as they did in one, other than climbing, which I remember getting to the top and being like, I've only got a couple seconds. And I don't know about you guys. Sometimes I'd let go and try to run on the enemy's shoulders.
Get
my stamina back. And then be like, haha, and leap back off. Yeah, I'm fine with stamina in that game. I think I think that makes sense. How many vocations are in Dragon's Dogma 2? 8?
They showed a lot, but they also said that there are ones that are going to be in the game that we haven't shown you. And I'm guessing it's going to be like one hybrid and one like very high rank type thing. Yeah,
go somewhere and learn it from some dude in a forest,
some secret dude,
yurt or something. Yeah, some unwashed heathen. No, man, I haven't seen anything for Dragon's Dogma that surprised me. But I did want to point out Falconeer Chronicles comes out on March 27th. So for anybody who liked the Falconeer game that came out about 4 years ago, this is a RTS world builder based in the same exact world. Looks very cool. Then you got Horizon Forbidden West. And you also have Unicorn Overlord. Which
Unicorn? Wait! Is that the game I'm thinking of?
It's from the Atlas guys who did like Odin Sphere and stuff. That game just is wild.
Dude, I love 13 Sentinels, and if it's by those
they did
devs,
that too.
So if it's anything close to 13 Sentinels, which is one of my top 5 games of all time, or not games, narratives of all time, like that would be. Yeah, I'm excited to see if it's good.
The trailers for that game are wild. Like It looks like a mix of 3 or 4 minimum styles and then merged down into one, but still real time. Like it just looks.
It is real time?
It is real time. Yeah. So it's like when you. So I actually had to check into this, but you're moving around the game world and you only go into battle if you overlap with another army. But when you overlap with another guy, it's actually real time in those side battles.
What the hell?
Yeah, it's like
Mountain Blade or something, huh?
Yeah, it changes forms and stuff in all different ways.
Tactical turn-based now, and now this is real time. Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
Yeah. So there's a lot of changes to it. Or not a lot of changes, but a lot of things merged into one for this game. But yeah, Unicorn Overlord. I did say it came for PC accidentally in my video. It is just for PlayStation.
It is Vanillaware, but Vanillaware is part of Atlas, right? Or Atlas Publishing or whatever.
And this is the first time they released it on everything, which is what I was excited about in my review, and I got ahead of myself. But they usually are platform specific.
Yeah.
Alone in the Dark comes out on March 20th. I think Alone in the Dark looks like it's going to have an uphill battle. I think it's in a bad time. I think that it looks pretty basic. If you look at it graphically, you're like, yeah.
Damn.
If you look Resident Evil versus Alone in the Dark, it's like, oh, that's going to be a tough climb. But it's got David Arbor and Jodie Comer, as her name is. She did not Bridgerton. She did Downtown Abbey, right? And
really? Damn.
Yeah, and Arbor's from Stranger Things and a bunch of other stuff. So and Hellboy. So I'm excited to play that. I just am a little nervous. Then Star Wars Battlefront Collection, March 14th.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Those were great games. I hope bots are still there and everything.
Bots
I
are
hope
there.
It's like,
yeah,
nice.
Bots are there. I checked. It is basically the cheapest port you can possibly imagine. Not to bitch, but it is not a. It is not. It is get it running on the other systems port. That's what it is. It's like
okay. Because I have the old ones on Steam still.
Oh, do you? Yeah, so this will merge it all together. You get all of the secret hidden, like the next levels that were DLC at the time. You get the heroes. You get all of that stuff. The bots are in there. Crossplay is in there. So,
is it still like 4/3, or is it able to do like wide?
Oh,
like 16.
I believe it is. Yeah, it does do 16:9 at least. Okay. Yeah, I get your drift. Back in the old days, man, I forgot what you're talking about. 4:3.
Yeah, you know the square.
Yeah, when you turn the old TV where you turn on a TV show on your new TV and there's a big, there's just nothing on the right and left. You're like, what? Yeah. No, I hadn't thought about that shit, man.
It's funny because if you get like a show like Stargate SG-1, there's because they were shot for 4:3 TVs, so in the widescreen versions you'll notice like an actor on the right like just goofing off or laughing or something.
Yeah, and it depends on how they do it. Sometimes they'll do cropping and auto cropping, and sometimes they'll have the old footage that was not cropped. Yeah, and you'll see the guys they know they're not blocking, so they'll be like, jacking off in the background. You're like, dude, come on, man.
Because those were shot in actually like
16:9,
but they were cut.
They were cut. Yeah.
Man, I mean, I'm excited for Star Wars as well. I don't know, it's just sort of a thing. I don't think Star Wars is going to like last forever, but it's sort of a cool port. It's like, hey, here you go. Here's all these old games as one. You can all play together.
Do you guys see yourselves like playing through those games?
Playing, but not focusing.
If someone does, like, I would jump in because there's really, really fun modes, man. Like that huge galactic
conquest is amazing.
Yeah, I'd love. Yeah, because that's like a thing you can get into with your friends and be like, okay,
it's like Helldivers 2,
like a 4-hour campaign or something.
Yeah, it's very close to Helldivers 2 style campaign. Yeah. Okay. I'll jump into it. I won't focus on it though. I mean, there's a lot of games. Focusing on that one is a little like, I mean. Yeah, like if somebody says they're playing, jumping in would for sure happen, but I just don't see myself, 6 months from now being like, dude, I've got, got 1,000 hours in this game.
Drop everything.
Yeah. You guys are like, where's all the review videos? Hey, Karak got addicted to this collection game. Yeah, I just don't see that happening. I don't even see it happening for anybody else, and I actually think that's okay at their price point. Their price point is more about, hey, it's coming. Have some fun. And I do think that should be celebrated. Not everything needs to be so serious. Neil Campbell, $2 super chat. Enjoy the weekend, my brothers. Thank you very much. We will. We're already enjoying the weekend. Wait, today is Friday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I got a little mixed up because we missed Wednesday. So for a little bit of this time, I've been like, oh, man, this is Wednesday. Let's see what else is coming out in that time. So we're getting a lot of games with crossplay. We got Outcast, which is called A New Beginning, which is the second new beginning for a game, but it is Outcast. That was out 2 decades ago. Then it had the original remake, and now it's got the new remake, and that's a new
Outcast
beginning.
has a lot of Stargate parallels.
Oh, dude, come on! You can't tell me. It's literally Stargate. I mean, the Soul X, the X, special forces. The attitude is just like the main guy from Stargate. Stargates, it's and natives. Stargates. It's the main thing. They even, by the way, in the old game had sort of an animation that was and a look that was closer to the Stargate, TV show. So, but I got to tell you guys, people who've been reporting back from the demo have been really, really happy with that demo.
Awesome, man. We want more AA shit, dude. Banishers has been great. I forgot to talk. I am playing like an hour of it every couple of days and stuff, and I got to. So
you haven't beat Banishers yet, huh?
No, because I'm taking it very slow. I'm playing an hour every day or two. It's like a TV show, and my latest thing was a very hard moral decision I had to do, which I still wonder, man. I still wonder if I should have
made whatever decision it was.
But because they do, and it doesn't feel like, hey, I'm gonna give you a trolley problem. It feels natural. It feels like, okay, this is the thing that happened, and I gotta, and it kind of makes me like kind of fall into okay, this is what type of Banisher I want to be, but still bend the rules. I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know how they do it. I don't know. The writing in that game is
they're amazing. Don't Nod knows
really
how to
good,
write it to where you're like, oh, this happened before I got here. And so it's not like here, like you said, here's a trolley, good or bad. You got to choose black or white. And instead they're like,
exactly.
dude, there's like about 80 shades of gray. None of them are faked. That's the other thing. It's not like a fake shade of gray. It's like, this is legitimately a person's life you're talking about. And then you're all, oh, I'll just destroy the ghost. And then you hear about the ghost and you're like, maybe not. Maybe this person is a piece of shit.
And not just ghosts, dude, like real, like living people where it's like, you gotta, I don't know. Yeah, I can't say too much, but the last choice was just, you're like, oh, okay, this is why, a president's job might be difficult or something. Or
oh, yeah, absolutely. No, that's a perfect example of like, if somebody has ultimate power on something, we always, like, you'll hear people say, oh, if somebody murders somebody, capital punishment's fine. You're like, okay, I absolutely have no problem with somebody saying that. But if you're the one flipping the switch, I'm going to tell you, unless you're a psychopath, you're probably going to start to look at family members, and pretty soon all this other shit comes into it. And that's the way Banishers loves to do it. And like I said, the best part about Banishers is every decision you make, you are fucking alone. You either watch or die again, and it's horrendous because no one sees it, or you become known as a mass murderer who just walks into town, and you're trying to keep somebody alive you can't tell anybody about. It's fucking ludicrous, man. You're just
and they teach you that like everyone has a perspective, man. Like they get two sides of a story first before you immediately,
Have you noticed one of the best parts about this one too, Abzy? Is there are times where you see back flashes, you use the spirit vision, and the person who talks to you later misremembers. Just like a person misremembers a memory by accessing it, you change your memory. There's been times where the person explaining stuff still didn't explain what happened, but they weren't lying. They didn't have a smirk. They legitimately now have a completely different thought process of what you just saw from the spirit world of what happened. And then you have to go, well, fuck, man. Like, they're wrong.
Yeah.
They're wrong.
Dude,
they're wrong.
Remember in Vampire, I always talked about this choice about like cheating dead wife and stuff like that. And there's just like that shit like it's like, man, you really gotta assess like your hierarchy of morality,
like
something.
morality. Yeah, because it's like, almost never kill or be killed. It's kill or be killed, steal something and kill, steal something, kill, murder,
like,
kidnap
is it okay
this
to
person.
Cheat if your husband was abusing you?
Right.
Or but there's more
but
to
there's
it.
more to it than that. Yeah, I was gonna say that it even goes, that one is even like,
it's
there's some thought.
identities and shit, like it's man.
And Johnny, have you played this?
Nope.
Are you think you're gonna skip out on Banishers just because it's not your thing?
I don't know. It caught me at a weird time because it does have this sort of slow pace narrative. Have to take in everything everybody's saying. Right. And it caught me at a really kind of unfortunate time with Yakuza also having a heavy story and everything. It's kind of hard to.
I'll tell you this, man. If it comes to stream, like if it comes to Game Pass or whatever, like, dude, you need to get Game Pass if you don't have it. I think everyone
should play it. This is one of the games where I'd be like, everyone should play it. I'm not done with it yet, so I can't really say. But so far, it's just.
It seems like a good Steam Deck or whatever portable or streaming.
As long as you can hear the voice acting. As long as you can voice acting.
True.
Also, Johnny, it's a good point too that so if you play Banishers, my personal belief is that you don't need to play. If somebody says play Final Fantasy, the original, talk about Final Fantasies, fuck you, you're an idiot. Makes no sense. But if you want to talk about story and writing, and you want to have a good, well-rounded idea of like good writers like Chris Avalon and some others, and then good writing that are groups. If you wanted to, let's say, do a podcast or something, this would be a game that if you didn't play it, you would be missing a number of great examples that you would be able to point out in a discussion that's deeper than a review.
True.
Or that's deeper than. So like when we talk about it there, I know if you play it, I just know you because I've seen you light up at a game with a weird choice. And I know what you mean. Yakuza's there. That's a rough one. Baldur's Gate just came out. Your brain might be like, I'm a little tired of listening to shit. Like that's a lot. But I can tell you in a year or whatever, if you do play it, you're a bit like the examples you can use for why you don't like a game in a year or so, if you're covering it on a podcast or you're doing one of your reviews, will go up by playing this because they do it so differently. that there's like data in there. And it's so funny because I was talking to a guy who writes for Time Magazine and all this stuff, and I posted a little thing, and he DM'd me. He's like, dude, I'm going to play this. And then all of a sudden, he was like, are you kidding me? This is legitimate stuff. This is like stuff that people in novels 20 years ago would celebrate the writing. Like, and I think that that's pretty high praise from a person that I know who writes
super
for their...
high praise.
Literally how I felt, where like I've been playing a lot of games recently, like Alan Wake 2 and a bunch of other games where I was like, wow, this writing is excellent, you know? But then you play Banishers and it's like, oh, this is good, right? Like this.
That's exactly it.
It's like that's like when every scene absorbs you. Like your ADHD doesn't kick in. You're just completely, in the scene. And I'm like, oh shit. Well,
you know how people use New Vegas as writing examples or Vampire? It's like this one adds to the entire discussion, so you don't have to hear somebody say New Vegas for the 40th time. Like, and there's rare examples of that, and this is one where I was just, and when I was playing, I was like, oh, fuck. Like, these guys know what they're doing. It's so weird, too, because I've seen people do combat really well. And we talk about, like, Dark Souls games. We talk about a good fighter. But it's pretty rare, guys, that I'm going to say writing is good. And I got to tell you guys, the relationship in this game, not sex part, not Mass Effect AABA to have sex with an alien. But a real relationship is pretty, I say real. She's a ghost. So, like, it's not real, but the actual feelings, yes, and the desire to save a loved one, and then also, like, what will you be when you're done? Because there's a weird thing, and this is not a spoiler, but when there's multiple endings to the game, there's a particular thought process in my mind that she's the Banisher, and that you're removed from the world. Because you do all these choices for everybody, but when you get done, there's an ultimate choice that really is basically the world choosing which of you. And I don't mean the world as in an entity. I mean the choices you've made, and all the world is in your history of all the shit you've done. And you come to the end, and in a weird way, the world banishes you or doesn't. Like, there's something that twists, and I don't think they meant that. I don't think they planned that. I think that's just how good the writing is. To where at the end, the name of the game, you think you're the Banisher and everything, but at the very end, you're like, oh shit, the same thing is actually occurring to us at a slower speed. Like the exact same kind of overarching decision between the two is happening with us. And that's pretty cool because a lot of times characters don't connect with their fictions. They're not really connected with the same, hardships other characters deal with. So we'll have to see.
How, like from the very beginning of the games, I don't know how the fuck they did that, dude. They're not heavy-handed with their relationship. They're not like, oh, these guys, like, totally, they love each other so much. Oh my God, I love you. I will kill I'll kill anyone for, like, they're not heavy-handed,
right?
They sell you on the love between them so well, but just not in a cringe way. Like, not, they just do it so naturally because of just how the acting, I think it's just like the acting and the writing just all together. Based.
Thank you, Mad Dog, for the 5 ACG memberships. Absolutely appreciate it. So does everybody in here, or they'll come into the Discord, or they'll just decide they don't love it. But I absolutely appreciate you doing it regardless. Next up, Neil Campbell, $2 super chat. Enjoy your weekend, brothers. $12 super chat. Souls Keeper says, gents, talking about stars. Any thoughts on Star Wars Dark Forces Remastered? Besides the price, it's been pretty awesome. Playing on Steam Deck at 72 FPS to remove the cheddar. We're in a weird world, man. Honest fucking frame rates. Is that a workaround? It is.
John?
It is. It's just the way the numbers work for, like, when you're delivering FPS and you have VRR, don't have VRR, what your max is and all that. But he says he's been playing on Steam Deck at 72. And then I want to read this life take that says, hey, since you've been a patron for 7+ years, love your content. I'm a bit behind on podcasts, but looks like there are a few missing from mid-February in Spotify. Yes, there is. Yeah, they will always be missing. If you don't see them within the next... No, there will always be missing. Yeah. I think when I did the 500 anniversary for ABSY, we were at 500 missing podcast or 50 missing podcasts, and now we're at 52 because of the Switch. We lost 2 of the newer ones. And then lastly, Christopher Jetzer, $10 super chat. Alone in the Dark remake was delayed to give it more space. However, THQ Nordic is publishing Alone in the Dark and Outcast 5 days apart. Seems strange.
What's going on, man? What is going on with these timings? I guess if you have like a lot of games coming out, it's just inevitable. Like,
it's inevitable, and I stand by the idea that Dragon's Dogma is a classic that no one still expected to explode in its popularity.
A cult classic, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Rise of the Ronin only recently announced their release date on that exact day. Horizon Zero Dawn, they probably had a very specific financial reason to do that, at a very specific time, and they need, guys, I think all this will change too. I think as we see all these companies, Sony laid off people just recently, all these layoffs and stuff, I think we will start to see in companies' financials a flexibility there that doesn't require it to release like at a certain particular time. Like they might have a 3-week period because we've seen success with Baldur's Gate moved, and I mean, Jesus, March 19th through 26th is, it just doesn't even make sense. It's like, even if you buy them all, you're not playing them all. And with everybody's desire to post concurrent player, numbers, every fucking article on every website is all about concurrent player numbers. It just feels like it's a big deal now that you have players. And how do you have players? Unless I have a PlayStation 5 in one room on a different platform, and a different sign-in playing one game and over here playing another, you can only play the one game at one time. So, yeah, it sucks. What else do we got? We got Helldivers 2. So, Absy's been playing it. Johnny, have you been playing Helldivers 2?
Not in this last week, but
okay.
Yeah, it's still going on.
Okay, so Absy, what you've been playing?
Yes.
You've been playing you played in the last couple days. Any betterments? Worsements?
So I do not get server queues at all, but I still do get crashes from time to time. I don't get server queues. I get crashes though. Like I get crashes sometimes when the mission is ended, and I think I had to reinstall it. I think the rootkit anti-cheat they had fucked with my system in some way. I don't know. I just reinstalled it and I fixed my problems. But yeah, just crashes. I've never, other than the first day, I haven't gotten server queues. Are people still getting server queues?
Not as much. I know that they've raised it a couple times, and then the honest truth is, this is not an indicator of its popularity, but there are other games coming out. So I think that like depending on the time people, and some people like yourself, if you did get in a bunch, then Pacific Drive comes out, and you're like, well, I did get to play it. So now I want to play. So you're having a switch out. Some people didn't get to, and they're jumping in. And I think some people who did are jumping out. So it's, instead of just everybody chomping at the bit, it's probably becoming a little bit easier for them to figure out their time frames and stuff like that. But I haven't heard as much. Well, okay, I say that. But I think it was yesterday's chat and the day before, everybody who tried to play was getting kicked out. But it could have been a server location. Like wherever you're playing, Magic Goldilocks land, you haven't even had these issues. So...
Well, I will say though, I feel like they are utilizing the live service aspect in a really good way. It sounds strange, but like from week to like playing it this week versus last week, I just love how like, okay, people have liberated this section. Now there's like this section that the aliens have kind of invaded, and it's completely different looking planets. And now there's like new modifiers and stuff. And it's like, liberate this planet now, and it's like, that's really cool. Like it's just like new content that I'm playing. So I feel like they're utilizing that aspect very well.
Damon for $5 says, ACG, you do the best reviews on YouTube. Not true. Writing on Games does, and I mean that sincerely. He's amazing. I'll take number 2 though. Any thoughts on Helldivers Game Master affecting the war? No, I think that's awesome. That's sort of what Absy was getting to, is that they're flexing the dynamic like. Oh,
I heard about that
battle thing.
He's talking. There's apparently devs.
Yeah, Joel, right? His name's Joel.
Controlling the bots.
Yeah, one
like they're
guy
playing a strategy. Dude, that's the shit I used to like dream about as a kid. Then I'm like, yo, imagine there's a dev behind the. Dude, that's sick.
And he chooses. He just, like, go into... He chooses like where the forces will go. They have like a DM mode for him basically, and so he's choosing where
Give it
things
to me,
are.
Man. I wanna try it, dude.
God damn. That's what should happen because, that's and this fun, is just me being honest about Helldivers. Helldivers is a little like Star Wars. I will play them, but I'm not going to be invested in them in 6 months. I'm not going to be like just grinding them. There's not enough. But there is enough if I get a call at 3 a.m. and I'm in a good mood and somebody says, dude, planet Rotera has fallen. And I'm like, the fuck it has, bitches. And the idea of everybody getting together as a social event, that's exactly why raids and world events and WoW would work. You'd have everybody getting together, and they almost made their own event. And in here, smartly enough, they've decided to make their own events. That makes sense. That's the way it should work. And I think we'll see more games doing it. It's not the first game that's had developer touch on adjusting the open world, but I think this is the most advanced. It seems like whatever tools they're using seem to be pretty easy for that guy to adjust it. And they said it's one dude. So if he fucks up, Joel, whoever you are,
fun job,
you're
right?
in deep shit.
Imagine having that job.
Would be a fun job. Yeah, that would be a fun job. Because I do the thing where I let him win a bunch, where I'm back here getting ready to zerg, and you're like, it would be awesome. Yeah. And here's the thing. Also, we don't know what cheats there are. There is something to be said. What if he can't cheat? What if there's no ability to give himself resources? Right.
Yeah.
So what
if he has like a whole resource management thing?
That's exactly what I'm saying. What if there's an allotment and he's like, or certain planets, we don't know this, but certain planets offer them something that's even beyond what we're seeing in the game. And, he's trying to play against that. There could be some.
So there you go. Helldivers is a PvP game, actually. So.
I mean, yeah. Also, Dave says, ACG, I think that adding the kicking idle people helped too. It did help the next day for sure, but kicking idle people was definitely a problem. It was also a problem for people playing, where you go in and people just be idle. So it's like, regardless, it needs to be done.
Is there an how there's a lot of asymmetric PvP games like the zombie, not the zombie one, Alone in
Evolve or something, 5 versus 1.
Ones. Is there one where you're playing like an RTS against like first-person shooter people? Like you're like commanding all the troops and the hordes?
The only one I know of is the one that I'm going to forget the name. I believe it starts with an S, but there is a very specific game that had not only a single player but a multiplayer version where you could go first person and RTS, but both could do it. Anybody could do it.
Oh, okay.
And you could build, and then like jump into the guy mining and also grab a weapon. I mean, when you think about it, Red Faction did that. Red Faction had was it Red Faction Armageddon? One of them, that's RTS, but you could also jump into anybody. PlanetSide, didn't PlanetSide do some of this? Or is PlanetSide just first-person shooting?
PlanetSide was the
Sony's PlanetSide,
but it was like 4,000 units.
Yeah, there was something like that. So maybe not that one.
Yeah.
Tristan, I've been playing Helldivers since launch, and I'm loving it, but I'm not understanding what the percentages are on each planet. Would you mind explaining it? How does it work? The percentages. Well, I can look it up. I haven't played it enough to even track that.
It's like the more missions people do on a certain planet, the more liberated the planet is. And everyone's contributing to that percentage until it's at 100%.
And it's also a progression system, so that once all the planets in one band are liberated, I believe that opens up the next band, and that means new planets are being.
That is true. New planets are being available for people to go to, right?
Yeah, now there's a snow planet that wasn't available before.
And they leaked on accident that trailer. Well, they didn't leak it. Somebody got the trailer, but there's mechs coming very, very soon, because the full trailer shows mechs just pounding around and blowing people up.
And I'm guessing they will add probably other types of aliens, forces, maybe. For sure, right? Obviously,
Sharks.
I think there was one
sharks,
underwater planet, dude.
Oh my God, Geonosis! Is it Geonosis in Star Wars? The water planet with the clones, or is that Kimono? Is that Kimono or what? It's not Kimono.
Is that the one dude
Kamino.
Kamino.
It's where Boba Fett kicked the shit out of Obi-Wan, or Boba Fett's dad kicked the shit out of Obi-Wan. Yeah. What
but imagine like slow walking underwater or something.
Oh, dude, in your mech.
Imagine diving, orbital strike into the water.
Underwater with all the water effects. Sorry. Go ahead.
There's a third faction, I believe, from the original game, and I'm pretty sure they're going to implement that. So right now there's bots and bugs. I think there was a third faction.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, it's awesome. It's great. I mean, it's like thank God they got it fixed. I do still hold them accountable as, their publisher Sony. We all knew it was popular. They could see the wish list. That's on them. It took them 7 days to get Sony to come in and help them out, but it's done. They're helping them out. It's got its success. It's doing well. It sounds like the meta game is doing well. It sounds like overall there's, he's got some crashes, but it seems like overall it's somewhat stable. And, I mean, for me, that's a really good indicator of where some of these games might go, because it's also it is a AAA game, but it's not. It's like a AA+. It's
like a AA+. Yeah.
That's
a good way to put it.
Like it looks good, but it doesn't have a ton of everything going on. It's like it looks good doing the one thing it does do.
Right.
Yeah. And their world building, by the way, anybody who decides to have a multiplayer game and doesn't show the world and the people fighting after this, not that I would hate the game, but it is a really good idea that you can see people pulling off the stratagems while you're, in your shit. Like that's
everyone's ships. Yeah.
That's what I always say. Lie a little, man, because it doesn't even have to be exact. Even if it's not exact and you're just right, it doesn't have to be true. It shows, but you see what other people are doing. You're like, maybe that's me to somebody else. Like when I pull off a stratagem, you're by yourself, but you're like, Joe Bob up in the, stratosphere may be looking down on me going, dude, that guy just rocked those. It's something about it that's just sort of like show-offy that I love. So we talked about that. We talked about Helldivers. I do want to talk about Gearbox and all the companies moving around. So Embracer is supposedly losing a couple different companies. And one being Gearbox, which I think just sort of makes sense. I think a lot of people are going to leave Gearbox or leave Embracer here soon. But looking at the newest data, let me see this leak, or we're definitely going to call it a rumor. It is, sources say Borderlands Studio will escape Embracer. Gearbox is planning on leaving Embracer, Fallout behind, and the devs are looking at other deals. And I think this makes sense because I don't know if you guys saw this. Toys for Bob, who were laid off, they were sort of somewhat minimized here in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Their actual physical location was shut down, but they weren't shut down as a company. They've gone independent today. And the first thing they did was state they're working with Microsoft, who is the company that let them go, which I think indicates that they knew that it wasn't necessarily Microsoft, like, that changes are happening and that you just turn around and say, that's business, man. And so Toys for Bob, the first thing they stated was, we're going independent, and the first thing we're doing is actually going back and working with Microsoft on a game. So we'll have to see what that is. But I think Embracer losing Borderlands Studio would be good. I think there's multiple ones that probably want to leave. So it's just multiple cuts, multiple layoffs in the last couple of weeks. Sony's was big. Embracer's looking to sell, or Embracer is selling Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic to Saber, who also is leaving. Saber's also who did Expeditions. Saber's got a ton of different games. So, I mean, there's a lot of changes going on in gaming right now. And luckily enough, not all of them mean people are leaving the industry. It sounds like some, we're getting the mini groups that come together after people get laid off. They sort of merge back up into Voltron and try to stay in gaming. So that's exciting if that continues to happen. And then Greedfall 2, man. So
what's the level of excitement?
What's happening with Greedfall 2?
Early access survival style.
What?
Like, yeah. It's not fully survival like what's another one? Minecraft, or, well, that's not really, you know what I mean.
Shrouded.
It's sort of a mix.
Like that?
Yeah, and it's going early access. And I got to tell you guys, like, I was looking at it a couple days ago.
That's like a reverse boner.
Before it went
there.
live.
What?
Yeah, and they were like, do you want to create content for it? And I was looking, I was reading, and then it said, and the reason why we're going early access. And I was like, what? To me, Greedfall was a great AA RPG that succeeded because it delivered a game right then.
Yeah,
right then. It hit a perfect point, and I just do not see early access as doing that.
So it's not going to be like an RPG again?
Still going to be RPG, but there's going to be like some survival elements to it, it sounds like. And the CGI was the trailer. It's a CGI trailer, but it's, yeah.
Oh, man.
So basically everything I loved about Greedfall 2 is gone.
Yeah.
Or not gone, but has a high chance of being dramatically altered.
I have a feeling the dialogue isn't going to be as good as the first one, dude.
Yeah.
Have we seen a survival game with like amazing dialogue or storytelling? I mean, we've had some cool stories. Subnautica had a cool.
The Forest had a cool story and shit, but it's not like I can't think of a survival game where it has like really deep choices.
I don't think any of them rival, like you guys were saying with Banished,
right.
Banishers, sorry, where it's like, a great.
Is it
story.
Possible that the gameplay loops that exist in an RPG and the ones that exist in a survival are almost diametrically opposed in like having them both be meaningful, because a survival game is all about the grind and an RPG a lot of times is about time sensitive. It's something we even tease when they don't, and they say save my child and it takes you 7 months to do it. Here's somebody's gonna say save my child and you're gonna build a fucking hut. You know what I mean?
For
Like
20
there's
hours.
yeah. So I'm wondering if the gameplay loops there are so divergent in their amount of time and resources and player focus that having an RPG element that's really defined is going to be.
Dude, I can't believe you said Greedfall 2 and then said survival early access.
Yeah. Well,
sentence.
not just survival. I want to point that out, but there's survival elements, and I think they said MP as well. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's gone. Let me look.
Yeah, the multiplayer, like that's all the all the red flags. Maybe it's good.
I mean, maybe it's good.
But it's not gonna be the same though.
Right.
Like, it's not,
that's what I was gonna say. Is
the first one.
Yeah, it could be good for whatever it is. But it just feels so weird. And they say RPG as well in the main in their main write-up, but do they say multiplayer as well? I'm looking here.
If it's single player, maybe it's saved. Maybe.
Yeah, let me look. Because somebody in chat said multiplayer, but I don't remember if I saw multiplayer. Greedfall 2 details. Let me look here. Just verify. I'm going to verify myself. The story starts 3 years before, or dive back in the unique world. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so this says single player. This does so. Somebody and I also got a DM saying it was multiplayer.
But early access.
I'm not seeing
if
that.
it's like a one-shot campaign, maybe I don't know. It's just like the thing is, obviously early access helps games, blah blah blah, and there's games that I don't care like that they're in early access. It's like random, multiplayer shit where you could just shoot the shit with a friend or like a roguelike or something. But if it's like a full-on like campaign, I can't wrap my head around. And we can see like it's helped Baldur's Gate 3 and stuff, but still like it's just like you're gonna have to redo the thing when 1.0 comes out, burn yourself out. I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't know too because it's a CGI trailer, right? And they just say early access, which by the way is just like instantly because of an RPG being early access always feels weird because it means you're usually going to experience a small part of that and then have to wait and regurgitate it multiple times before you experience the full part. But the survival things that I've been reading about sounds more like maybe creating your own base, like, so maybe you're a king, a land maker or something, a hero gathering people, which
we've seen CRPGs do that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's hard to know. It's just the early access is really rough. I think the early access is probably the roughest part of it where, just feels
and
weird.
As me and Johnny pointed out, if it has survival in the title, then it's just going to have shit combat.
Yeah. Luckily, this doesn't. The only thing it's got in the title I can see is the early access part. But again, very odd. Like it doesn't hit right. I don't know. Whatever. I'm hoping we can.
Maybe
sort of come out of this.
We're worried for nothing. Yeah, maybe it'll all turn out well.
Deathproof says years ago when Embracer was buying up developers, Colin called it that they wouldn't be able to financially handle all those studios. He knew about the Saudis pulling out. I don't see that that's realistic. I mean, maybe he knows the Saudis, but if the Saudis hadn't pulled out, not only would they have been able to financially handle it, they would have been able to financially handle it. I think they were saying for like 11 years. Don't think people realize that how much $1 billion is. And then now you add another $1 billion because I think it was 2.5 for the investment. Yeah.
And I read like some dude's net worth is like 216 billion. I'm like, that's a lot of
dude. Isn't that weird to say that's a lot? Like when somebody said, I was a kid and I used to be like, what would happen if I won $1 million? Now I'd be able to pay off the house and that's about it. It's like, dude, the amount of money that some of these people have is just insanity.
It's insane. Dude. Like I'm perfectly happy with like 1/1,000,000th of that. You know what I mean? And I'm like living my life. I guess I don't have like a wife and kids and stuff, but you know what I mean? And it's like I imagine someone with that much money and it's like, what the hell what would you do, I don't know.
I would make a Tron RPG if I had billions. Like that is something that
would make sense for us, right? It would be like a thing to do with games or making like a.
Now I'm picturing Karak like looking for the right people for the team, like almost like a team where you're.
Okay,
you're looking for the.
What would your dream game to make be? What would Karak? What would your dream game to make be?
That. Yeah, just because I think it's ill-used as an IP overall, it's still somewhat popular, and the idea of like the ISOs and going into a virtual world that's inside of a CPU and having real people in there would lend itself to some role-playing elements that I would find personally interesting. So to me, I'm not saying the biggest, best game, but to me, that would be...
of course.
I mean, it would have been No Man's Sky prior to No Man's Sky coming out. That's the honest truth. No Man's Sky, we talked about this yesterday. I think No Man's Sky has eclipsed my dreams as a kid. As in all the stuff I thought would be cool to do in a game.
Gordon fantasies.
And Turum brought up something. He said, we've gotten to the point now to where the fantasy used to be far out. And now a lot of games can get close to the fantasy. They can get much closer in their options and their tools and their accessibility and their graphics so that our dreams aren't as... I mean, honestly, I feel that that's actually right. My dreams many times aren't for a big new thing. It's that the current small things work, like the Helldivers doesn't crash. And that's a weird, maybe it's age, but it's like, even when I talk to my nephews or whatever, and I start talking to them, their game ideas that they have are like to reiterate on No Man's Sky. So I think the jump in generations from 2D to 3D was massive, from digital to like or not digital, but like synthesizer voice to real voice is massive. The jumps are less. Not in a bad way. It's just that, dude, what do you dream of? No Man's Sky does a lot of shit. Like that does a lot for a game. Helldivers is doing a lot when you look at the, the narrative and
that's
RPG.
True. Yeah, it's becoming smaller and smaller. What was that, Moore's Law or no?
Moore's Law is that every 16 months CPU power doubles. So, but there is an alternative law that goes into that one, which is also that it gets harder. The resources require basically double to make it smaller and smaller, and or to get it more powerful, basically. Which is why we jumped to multi-CPU. Yeah. When we have, it's true too, like we have done a pretty good job in, seeing jumps in PC power and stuff, but the actual delivery of the game, you're just like, I look at No Man's Sky or Test Drive Unlimited or Forza Horizon, and I'm like, okay, so I can drive around anywhere. I can race anybody. They have a fake drivatar named Abzi who drives somewhat like Abzi. Like, how much farther are we talking other than VR? I do believe VR missed it. I do think VR would have been the big jump because it's another D.
Yeah, that's true.
It's another D. Yeah. It's like another dimension. So. So real quick, back on Greedfall, I want to make sure that we don't put out misinformation. What I'm hearing, though, again, is that there is some survival elements of some kind. It is for sure already mentioned that it is early access, and the comment was that it was multiplayer, and I can't find any data on multiplayer. So I think that's where we are right now. Greedfall also, I don't know about you guys, I think Greedfall worked because it was rough, but it hit at a certain time, and I think that the more things against it, it just has much harder. It's not the same as like a big AAA game with a lot of resources behind it. It's like, it's almost harder for them. It just feels like they don't need too many negatives to sort of be driven out of it. What else do we got going on here? Let's see. Let's look at our list of questions in the chat. Not chat, sorry, in our Discord. Saber buys itself. Gearbox doing the same. Toys for Bob. Mandalorian FPS canceled. Can you guys believe that shit? Damn. Canceled so fast. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
When did they announce it? Like
yesterday. They announced the leak, or I think it was just a leak. I don't even think it was announced, or maybe it was announced. I don't remember. But the announcement for the cancellation was yesterday.
Man, Mandalorian, like when I first watched the TV show from the first couple episodes, I was like, this could be a game. Feels like a game, like an RPG or something.
I like the idea of Mandalorian because it makes sense for upgrades, makes sense for the battle stuff, it makes sense for traveling around the universe, it makes sense. And so when they canceled it, I was like, makes sense. Everything I like is canceled. Yeah, I'm not lying.
It sucks, man, because we were like brainstorming all these like mini games you could have in different gameplay elements in the game, like just the prior week. And it's like, boom, it's canceled. It's gone.
It's gone, man. It's gone.
But it is something that someone will pick up at some point, right? It's like there for the taking in a way.
Yep. And I think that they were pretty clear that they wanted to spend money on IPs they own, and the reason why is you're still paying 30% out for the IP of Star Wars.
A relevant IP because of the show and everything. Like that's pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, so the
Live.
premium's going to be there, 30 million or something, the 100 million game, maybe paying 30 million for an IP, and you look and you go 30 million could make another small title for us. Like
I did see what's his name, Cameron, the actor from Jedi Survivor. He was talking about doing a live action adaptation or something from the games, like playing that character in a live action thing.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, I'd watch that. I think, the story overall was a bit meh in the second Jedi game. I think the first one was a bit more enjoyable for me, but overall, yeah, I think that would, they have some good characters. Actually,
not only that, but the first one was the world building. You were introduced to him, so he was new, and the second one is like you're not introduced to him because he's not new, and so that can boil away some of the fun of the story that the first one had. So it makes sense that a lot of times in the second one, unless they really introduce a big baddie, which they tried, but unless they really do a good job, it can be hard. Yeah, I would watch him, man. That guy's a good actor. He's good in everything. Like I would watch him in a millisecond. I mean, more than I'd watch any of the others. I mean, I can't even think of a Star Wars thing I want to watch. Yeah, he'd be good. Was he just saying he wanted to do it?
I think they asked him, like, hey, would you do a live action, or like, would you play that character in a live action? And he was sort of tongue-in-cheek saying, oh, I have one condition, or something along those lines.
No ponchos.
But yeah, I think
that's his one condition.
No ponchos.
No ponchos.
I think he said basically, he would be happy to do it. So
I think most actors, if they were handed the ability to do Star Wars, be the lead, and have 12 episodes and be paid for a year, they're probably going to currently take it.
You? That's huge.
Yeah. I mean, if you just look at the financials of it, I mean, you guys do remember less than 10, 15 years ago, an actor didn't go to TV to live. They went to die. And that's completely reversed. And now TV is where huge it's absolutely
Netflix.
Flipped. And there's a comfort zone.
Netflix.
Yep, if you land even if it goes one season, as long as you're smart in how you handle it, you might be set for a long time,
Oh yeah. I mean, some of these Disney or like Netflix, FX, HBO shows, they have the budgets of literally several
movies.
Blockbuster Hollywood movies.
Remember reading some of the Lord of the Rings Amazon cost for like one episode?
Dude, it was preposterous.
Dude, why spend that much money if your writing is going to be so bad?
I don't know. Well,
I mean, they didn't opt into that. I mean, do you know what I mean? It's not like writing shit. Like,
true, but if you have a ton of money, maybe your stipulations or your restrictions are less, and so you don't. You're like
they dumped all of it in like
CGI.
Well, I'm just saying. Also, you're not scrappy as much. You're not like we need to choose the best of 10. Instead, they say we need this number one. Director,
like I'd rather watch like an indie like $10 movie with amazing writing than like $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, we all got to see Rebel Moon. And so it's like when you see Rebel Moon, the entire idea of what a shitty, huge movie can be. Well, you're lucky because it is a great example of what we just said, where somebody got a big name director who's trash, instead of restricting the choice and looking at 10 and sort of asking them, what would you do? And looking at stuff. Instead, he's like, I'll make this movie. And
and I can enjoy a popcorn, what do you call it?
A B movie? Popcorn action movie? Absolutely.
Yeah, like a popcorn action movie. Yeah. But that movie, you could predict the entire timeline within the first
That movie could make
10 minutes of
movie theater popcorn taste like shit.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but it's fucking horrendous. Like, it's horrendous, and it's not hyperbole that it's horrendous. It is an actual horrendous movie, which is really weird.
It's funny because
I really want to watch
elements
it now.
of it. I like elements like some of the cast I thought was great, some of the effects, but then like the execution, it just becomes a
I really want to watch
flaccid,
it
now,
Yeah, man, and you're talking to somebody who, I've watched Leprechaun well over 40 times. Like, I've watched B movies like nobody's business, and there's the difference between
Kevin Bacon's what's the one
Tremors?
with the tentacles?
Tremors. Yeah,
Shit,
there's the difference between aiming for it and then like you can almost sense somebody's trying, and like as George Carlin used to say, frankly, if that's your best, maybe you ought to keep it to yourself. Like,
Bro.
it's okay to say that. Maybe don't display that. But whatever. I'm sure somebody likes it. There's always somebody who likes. I mean, people like to get their balls kicked on like Pornhub. So like, there's always somebody out there for S&M. Stefan says, discussing what the implications of Remedy acquiring all IP rights to the Control franchise, including projects like the spinoff Condor, or future projects like Control 2 from 505 Games, which Abzi also mentioned prior to the podcast starting. 505 Games closed 3 of their development houses today or yesterday, right?
When Remedy
French, Germany. No, I'm just saying they bought them from 505, down? And then today 505 also closed.
Yeah, they closed in like 3 different countries.
I mean, Remedy
and Sony
probably
did
knew
too, right? Yeah,
Sony did too. Yeah, 505 was, in the shit house. There were rumors that there was some bad news coming, and I guess it came. And Remedy got smart. They had just enough to buy their IP back. I mean, Remedy teamed with Epic. It is good, and Remedy teamed with Epic for the Alan Wake. They're pretty smart business-wise.
Yeah, and Microsoft before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Quantum Break, right?
Yeah, and Alan Wake 1, right? They were with Microsoft.
Oh, right. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that was dumb. Yeah, true. Yeah, I'm excited to see where they go, but I do believe that Alan Wake 3 is like... There's a high chance I will be dead. I mean, like, not a small... if you look at the amount of time, like...
Yeah, like the Final Fantasy remake will be done before.
Yeah.
Will it?
Yeah. I mean, for an Alan Wake 2, I mean, because I think they have Condor, then they have Control 2, then they have Alan Wake 3, maybe. So it's like, I'm thinking best of 3 and 3 is 9 years from now. 3. I'm just thinking 3 years. That'd be, and Remedy's not quick. None of their shit is 3 years. Like that, 3 years for Remedy would be. And they've also got DLC, right? They've got DLC coming for Alan Wake.
Yeah.
So they still have to. How many do they have for? They have 2, I think, DLC.
Have they announced the?
Yeah, there's something on their roadmap somewhere that talks about 1. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but
Alan Wake 2 flopped in sales. Did it actually flop in sales? I thought it did.
No, Alan Wake 2 just hasn't made its entire profit back. But no, it didn't flop in sales. It just didn't. It needed to sell more. It's their best selling.
Yeah, Remedy's games sell over time more. I feel
they're a weird situation with the Remedy games. Yeah. And by the way, when you look at how much it cost them, even though they were smart, they also went for a digital only release to save people who bought it. The idea that they still haven't made their profit 100% back is a little rough, when you just look at their profit margins.
Yeah,
and it bit them in the ass. Even though it saved us $10, people were mad about it. They would have rather had a physical, and I was like, damn, well, okay then.
Yeah, that's such a petty thing to be mad over, in my opinion, but I get it.
Especially because it was $10 cheaper for that reason,
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah, so no, it did fine, but they I mean, especially when you consider like what they got out of it and their reviews and all that stuff, but their sale numbers are different. Well, every company's sale numbers are different, depending on cost and what they do. I personally believe one thing that failed them was the digital. Sell it at the normal price, sell it at physical, and make a deal, whatever, so if, let's say you make $2 extra, but it costs you $8, you're still making $2 extra per sale.
Yeah.
So if you do, 50 million sales, it's like, well, maybe that would have offset the cost and they would be, fully profitable now. I don't know. All companies are different.
Yeah, it sucks to see the perspective of a game who won so many, like, Game of the Year, and, it's been highly well appraised, but still hasn't, made its money back, let's say. Because you would think that should be the game that made its money back, is one that is highly, recognized. And
yeah, but Abzi brought up the important point that for whatever reason, their sales are... they're just this.
It's just ass.
It's not ass. It's just slow. It's like even Control did well, but it took a while.
It took a while for Control to do well. Yeah.
They really don't grab, and then they don't grab. They just hold. Does that make sense? Like, you don't feel somebody grabbing you. It's just holding onto you lightly, and it goes for a long period of time. And you keep getting the sales, and then all of a sudden it's like, now we've made money. But it doesn't have the pop, even though, like Johnny said, score-wise, right?
Yeah,
right.
This one seemed like it culturally it hit because everybody was talking about it.
Good way of saying it, culturally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also think what's great about Alan Wake and Remedy, they do not need to be profitable to make their next game.
Yeah.
So it's a weird way of looking at business, but they can be a loss leader and continue to make games and get investors. It's a weird situation,
right?
but
it is.
It's completely possible. Yeah. And by the way, I bet you a huge amount of money from your Sonys or your Microsoft to make it exclusive could be offered to them, just like Epic offered to be digital on their service and give them. You know, there's all kinds of deals coming up, man, that are pretty crazy. I wouldn't want that, by the way. I think that would fail them being exclusive on anything, especially when the Switch 2 is now rumored to be March and expected to have a ton of third-party day and date with all other consoles.
It still feels so weird to think about a Switch platform playing games like Alan Wake 2.
Do we know if Alan Wake 2 is coming to Steam and shit?
I have no clue. I don't know.
Wait, I played it on Steam.
No, it's only on Epic.
It's only sold on Epic.
Is it?
Yeah,
I think so. I mean, it might be on Steam now, but the biggest reason why they sold cheaper and didn't do physical was because of Epic. So let me look. Alan Wake 2 on Steam. I don't think it's on there yet, but it could be. No, not on there yet.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's Epic.
It can be hard to remember because to me, all digital launchers are launched for 2.0 seconds. And then it's closed. So launcher wars completely escape me because I'm like, I'm playing the game. It's like whenever anybody tells me their reboot speed is fast. And I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, true.
Like it has nothing to do. I don't reboot my system a bunch. And if I did, it would be a quarter of a second.
Fast reboot on.
Fast reboot is literally the opposite of fast.
It's the opposite of fast.
It's so bad, man.
Do you guys remember when Windows Hibernate would actually stop Windows from going into sleep hibernate mode? And you're like, dude, Windows, come on. What are you guys doing?
Awesome. Or like people with NVMEs getting like blue screens from suspending or like all types of random stuff.
Yeah, that was a big deal for a long time. But back to Epic, man. Happy for them. I'm sorry, not Epic, but Remedy. I'm happy for them. It's awesome. It's good on them. I think everybody who creates should own their... if you don't want to own it, it's fine. But the fact that they own the IP rights is good because they've had issues in the past. So I'm happy they got out of 505. Next up, Marcus McNasty says Direct SR announcement. Yeah, so this is cool. So basically, in the past, to add FSR, DLSS, there was some coding that needs to be done in games. And that coding is not necessarily super small. And it's why some games, not because of exclusivity, but some games have not had one or the other. And Direct SR is Microsoft's new thing they're announcing at the end of March, which basically will be one line of code to add any. So it'll add XESS, it'll add FSR, it'll allow the developers to just put it in. And all this stuff we've seen in the past with like a game not having it, and some people have been like, oh, that must be AMD. And sometimes I'm absolutely sure it has been, but there's been other times where they don't have the developer time. Helldivers 2, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this, and I'm not saying I believe it, I'm just saying it's what he said. The developer stated that they didn't put FSR and DLSS in because in their meetings, the tech time between that and adding content or fixing what they had wasn't worth it. And so they would rather add content. Now, take that as you will. That's what he said. I'm just saying that's what he said. So if it is one line of code and Microsoft can get this working, which I think they will. I mean, that's sort of like their thing. I'm excited for that, to where we don't have to have these fucking
Remember back when DLSS 2 first came out and me and you were like, yo, in the future, it's just going to be so easy. It's going to get to a point where you could just add it to any game. I feel like we're here now, almost.
And it's VR is where it started, ideas of how to do alternative like lens and stuff, and now it's come back to VR and back and back and back. It's like it's awesome. Handhelds are using it. I've used it multiple times on the Lenovo Legion to great effect. And it's even got a couple issues in some versions, but just a little bit of tinkering got it working. And it's like they're not even fully ready yet. So the idea of like Microsoft pushing this forward is awesome, man. I'm excited for it. I think it's great. It is weird though that this is not the only thing we're looking at for like frame gen. You know, you have all kinds of weird shit that's coming in the future. You know, shortcuts for things that because I don't consider frame gen at all a shortcut, but there are shortcuts coming that are pretty insane. Did you guys see that somebody tested last week? Researchers tested a computer made of nothing but a single fiber optic cable, one fiber optic cable.
What the hell? What do you mean?
So listen to this, man, because this is mind-blowing. It's hard to even wrap my head around. I had to read the paper twice, and I still don't know if I fully understand it. But by using a single fiber optic cable and by measuring the changes in the light that goes through it and encoding light on its way through, you can calculate on the other end. And one of the uses they used for this, which is successful, was by listening to a person's voice, they can tell if that person is COVID positive. And currently, this system that they tested has a higher success rate than all the other systems that do this. And so they're saying in the future, imagine a world where there are no hard-coded boxes anywhere. You don't even see them. There's nothing. Because it's all done by fiber optic cables doing the processing. It's wicked. You got to read that. You can find it if you just look it up online. But it was a research paper that came out yesterday. And I was reading it going, and I think I was telling a couple people in the chat, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't even understand, because my brain thinks of a box and a piece of silicone in it. And they were like, nope. There's other ways to do shit. And I'm like, well, that might change. Because, I mean, what if your walls are just, you know, like, and then that's also giving off light. So it's like, what if your light, we've talked about light HDMI. What if your bulb is a CPU or whatever, you know? Oh, and did you guys also?
We won't need streaming anymore because it'll all be there everywhere.
It'll all be there. But the other cool one that I thought was awesome was they're looking, I don't know if you guys have seen the rumors, Intel's chips won't have multi-threading in the future. There's a couple benchmarks hitting without multi-threading. And Intel and AMD have both looked at, like, what do we do if we remove multi-threading, if we just go with the processor, you know, the speed cores and the efficiency. But the more interesting thing about that is a new type of multi-threading has come out that it actually even takes old cell phones and makes them much more powerful. And it's by using a new type of hyper overseer that figures out where to put stuff, and almost a generic package. So it can use a random sound chip to do calculations and then move it instantly to, you know, like your CPU, then move it to the GPU. And of course, there's those latencies. There's all these kinds of hubbub about it, but there are benchmarks for it. And we're talking like older cell phones, and it improved its power by like 3 times and improved energy efficiency by like 50%.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and so the idea is, like, are we at the end of our CPU, you know, the way we are now, where you have software hyper-threading across the multiple threads on CPUs, you do all this, now it's like, oh, we may be going away from that. Because I remember when hyper-threading became a thing, it was confusing as fuck. You're like, but it's one CPU. How does it have 2 threads on it?
Yeah,
you're just like, what? And now it's, of course, ingrained in...
It's like, what? I actually have 4 cores instead of 2?
Yeah, it's a very... I'll look it up while we're talking, but it's a very cool bit of science that, again... Some of these come and go, and then some kind of, like, almost like a scientific limit stops them. But I think for a lot of this stuff, we're going to see it, especially with Intel's rumors of them dropping hyper-threading later. Like, maybe just having, you know, you've got your cores that are so fast that hyper-threading slows them down. I don't know if you guys have been seeing this, but a ton of recent games perform worse with hyper-threading. Yeah, there's a lot. I think I was talking to John, in fact, about, he came on with Abzi and I. There was a game. He was, John from Digital Foundry was covering, what was it? It's probably multiple games, but there's one specific game that he was covering, and when they turned off hyper-threading, it was like, it got better FPS crazy. And it had less stutters. Have they figured out
how to use, like, the E-cores efficiently?
Well, that's one of the big ones that still pops up. I mean, especially if they go on to that on accident, and you end up trying to run anything but your browser on... Yeah. If you try to run a browser on like anything other than the efficiency core, you're screwed. Let me see if I can find this. What was it, hypervisor? Maybe new type of hypervisor. What else do we got going on? Anything? Are you guys looking forward to anything that's outside of March? Any April games? Or
April. What is coming out in April? What's after Dragon's Dogma? I know there's Stalker in September. Oh, the butt game is in April. right? Or is it in August?
The
When's
butt
What is the
game.
butt game?
Oh, Stellar Blade.
Okay.
Stellar Blade.
Yeah.
That's one. I like action games, so hopefully that one's good. Black Myth Wukong. When is Black Myth Wukong?
Black Myth Wukong is. I think it starts with an M. I think it's May.
August 20.
Oh no, is it August?
20. Yeah. When is Stellar Blade release date? April 26. So that one. Wait, let me see here. Because I want to find time. Rise of the Ronin, I kind of want to play, but I don't know how that. Hopefully, man, I just want the Neo devs to go back to Neo to do well. Hopefully they do well. Grounded. Wait, what? No, that's Switch and PS5. Manor Lords.
Yeah,
Oh, it's early access.
Visions
Manor
of
Lords.
Mana is a pretty big one.
What's it called?
This year? Visions of Mana.
Visions of Mana.
It's a series of games, but there's a new one this year that looks pretty good. JRPG, but with a cool real-time combat system.
Mm.
It looked pretty good. And then, of course, there's Elden Ring DLC in June. And there's that Persona-adjacent game, Metaphor. That's also mid-year.
I don't
or
know
something.
anything about that one. But I saw some people talking about it yesterday. What do you mean by Persona adjacent? Like just like the.
Well, it's the Persona devs, and it's very much like a Persona game, just not in name. Yeah, with like very similar sort of social systems and dungeons and stuff, but with a bit of a different flavor.
Yeah.
But it looked very good.
Yeah.
What other ones? Anything on there? Any what about this end of this year? I was actually looking at the end of the year, is there actually?
November,
I don't think there is anything huge.
The only thing in October is Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time. September only has Stalker 2 and Space Marine 2. What the fuck?
That's a name.
Stalker 2 is September 5. Warhammer 40k is September 9. Damn, man. What the hell? Man.
Yeah, interesting.
Is there any words on a new Metro?
Other than the VR one, I don't know. I hope so, man. I hope so. I want it. I want Metro. I want more Metro.
I mean, because we know
Stalker.
a new one's coming. Yeah, he mentioned Stalker. Yeah, Stalker's coming.
Sorry,
yeah,
I missed
he did.
it.
No, it's all right.
What else are they playing? What else are they making other than Metro? What do they make other than Metro?
I don't know. And the Metro VR game is not them, right?
No, it's not them.
It's
not
them.
They worked with them. I'm guessing they were just there for advice or whatever. Yeah, it wasn't them who actually like developed the whole thing. They just consulted them, I guess. 4A games. I don't like. What are
dude, Hellblade 2 in May.
When is that? That's in May. What is happening in the summer? Are there games coming out in the summer?
Yeah,
like obviously Elden Ring.
A few of the
Elden
ones
Ring's
we
gonna
mentioned.
obviously be a good one, I think.
Shin Megami Tensei 5 is coming to PC, Switch, PS5, PS4. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Interesting. Elden Ring. Oh, it's on the same day as Elden. Oh, dude, guess what's coming out on the same day as Elden Ring? A new Souls-like made by like an indie team, and I'm like, oh man.
Oh
it's
damn.
Souls-like, and you're releasing the same day as the Elden Ring DLC.
Tough window.
They because they announced the release date like a day before From Software announced the release date of Elden Ring.
Oh man.
I think that game is called I don't know, it's some like Italian game, and their whole vision is like we want to make like a Souls game that's set in the daytime, right? Yeah.
I was talking to Hug. I was doing her podcast like last week, and she mentioned, I'm like, I've never heard of this game, or at least, if I did, it was one of those titles we talked about randomly. But yes, she had stated the same thing. It was coming out right there at the exact same time frame.
Man.
Absolutely. What about the one you were talking about? No Rest for the Wicked. When is that?
That one killed my. It's coming out early access.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Which game?
No Rest for the Wicked by the Ori devs.
Yeah, I what I saw today looked fine. It did legitimately make me a bit ill.
Yeah.
The camera shake or something.
Yeah, I don't get motion sick, but even me, like I think there's the camera shake, and there's like the way the camera chases the player, it like accelerates, and it's weird. Yeah, but I think it looks impactful. It looks cool. I like what they're doing. I've always said that I want an ARPG, like an isometric ARPG that isn't just hack and slash, kill a ton of monsters, and they seem to be doing that. They're just doing like a Souls-like version of it, which sounds cool. They said loot will be it's still random, but I don't know how it really works. You create your realm. It's not procedural generation. They want to like handcraft everything, so there will be like secrets and stuff. But there's also multiplayer. I don't know how it'll all work out, because all I saw was like an isometric Souls like so far. But they have plans for it. I think they also have plans for like it's not just gonna be a campaign you beat. Like it's gonna be very story heavy and stuff. And it seemed like it has voice acting everywhere, and it seemed pretty good. But they did say that it will have like an end game and all that stuff for people to. But yeah, I don't know. It's coming out early access. I don't know what will be available in early access. They also showed like a dev like what they plan on updating after the early access comes out. So multiplayer comes like on an update after, and then after multiplayer there's like another thing and then another thing. But I don't know when it's actually gonna release.
I think the thing with this year too is that I don't know if there's a lot of secret titles or anything, but it certainly seems like there's titles that maybe they don't garner the big talk, and I'm wondering if people are going to have fatigue, and so they're not going to jump into those, or if it's going to be nice and those games will do well. Because I've actually been wondering if maybe it's possible that there might be not a pullback, but maybe we'll just go to the games that we've missed, because there's so many games in 2023 I've missed. That it is a library. I still need to get back to
System Shock. Yeah,
right.
I've had System Shock installed for a while.
What's his name was just saying he played that one game at 72 FPS, the remaster of some game he just said he was playing. That just got added. But I mean, 2023 alone had like probably 50 middle tier and higher games that I missed.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. There's like Control Alt Ego, which is another like immersive sim indie that I really want to play. I heard really good things. Like there's a lot in my library that I've already bought, but I just haven't had the time to really play. I do want Breathing Room, because I mean those big games are like I don't have all the time in the world to game. So those big games are taking me like a month. You know, Yakuza took me a month. So
yeah.
I can only imagine how much Dragon's Dogma will take me.
And how much was in there that, like, even the big if you ignore the big titles, there's some, B game or so. I mean, there's been a couple games people posted from Steam where I'm like, oh, dude, that looks awesome. Here we go. So sorry, I had to actually ask Game Dev to find this because he had seen me posting this. But this is called New Multi-Threading Technique Promises to Double Processing Speeds. This is pretty wicked. I'll put it in the chat, but it is well worth checking out. And like, it is a bit mind-blowing when it comes to, like, overall just some of the changes people are doing in gaming, or in PC tech, and changing the way we do things. Moving on from there, Doom Reaper says, KARAK Savage, the Battle of New Earth is the game that is a RTS FPS mix that I always forget. And you're right, it's called Savage, and I appreciate you saying that. Christopher Jetzer, $5 super chat. Saber is making Space Marine 2. Does it affect it? I'm very much looking forward to it. Saber is making Space Marine 2. I don't think... Are they part of Embracer? They're the ones leaving. They're one of the ones leaving. They're one of two companies leaving. I don't think that'll change anything. I think it'll just give them more freedom. Well, I could be wrong on that. Maybe it'll cost them more, but I don't think it'll change it. Sam Torres says, $2 super chat. Here's to your Tron RPG. Bring it, KARAK. Thank you very much. Silent Giant. Every time I Helldive, I scream, come on, you apes. You want to live forever. $5 super chat. Yeah, Helldivers rips off, what do you call it? Starship Troopers really well. Really well.
Yeah.
It does it to where you're not mad. You're just like, that's a thing.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah, I got my dad the game, and he's like, is this Starship Troopers? I'm like, basically, yeah, basically.
I mean, it basically is. We get a lot. Yeah. I mean, it's also, that's okay. Like, that doesn't bother, Starship Troopers is also 20 years old, right? As a movie. I mean, yes, there's 15... sequels because Casper Van Dien needs a job. But I mean, when it comes to the main one had to have been 20 years ago. So it's fine with me. Let's see, what other stuff do we have in the tech questions? Stefan says, just overall, no rest for the wicked impressions after the showcase. So we talked about it making me a little sick. Maybe.
Well, the bitrate was trash too. The
bitrate was terrible.
Really bad. The bitrate was really bad. But I think the game, the way the animations are and the sounds and the combat looks impactful. It looks really.
You liked all that?
I liked the combat. I liked how, again, there's like secrets and stuff like that. It's like and I like how they moved away from that ARPG hack and slashy shit, because that just gets boring to me. Like,
it looks like a mix of Dark Souls light with ARPG.
Yep.
You know, a little bit more deadly combat. I also am very happy for that, because when I saw somebody playing Last Epoch, I was like, what is this? Is this Diablo? No, it's Last Epoch. I'm like, okay. And then 2 minutes later, I said another game, and they're like, no, it's this other game. I'm like, all right, they're all looking way too similar. They're all just exploding shit, which is fine. I love that people love that, but an idea of doing something different is cool.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And it looks like it looks to have like a really cool, unique narrative. Obviously, the art style is very, very cool. I like the faces, the drawn faces.
Mm-hmm.
It looks kind of like Arcane from the League of Legends TV
and
show.
Redfall. It looks very much like that. Like even at sometimes Pacific Drive, like low polygon texture shades.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see what they have in store in terms of just the story, the world they built and stuff. Like they and it's true what they say. Like their games are like paintings. Like Ori was a painting, you know, and it's timeless. So yeah,
I think you just hit why I don't care for this game. Well, no, there's multiple reasons, but the main one is that Ori was like magical. I don't even know another way to describe it. It's just I look like a dwarf because I'm sitting so low. I love it. And my green screen. This is high tech. This is ACG, the best gaming podcast. Fucking green screens all moved around. But there's something about Ori, man, that was like magical.
It was instantly
like, and this
captivating.
one probably has better gameplay, honestly, or maybe more intricate gameplay, which will be awesome. But I just can't get off the fact of just how fucking insane Ori looked, and what, like, one of the few games to make me feel something. Like, even at the start when you're
I am happy for the devs, though. Apparently, like, it's a game they've been wanting to make since the first Ori, and they were only like 20 people at the time, and now they're at like 70 people. So good for them. Like,
Jay Reaper
actually,
says,
finally,
no, go ahead.
Finally seeing their thing come to fruition, like their ideas.
And their success has been awesome. They did that first one. I think they might have done a baby DLC. I could be wrong. I could be talking on my ass. But then you get 2, and now you get this. It seems like they're pretty in control of their own fate. Yeah, which is definitely what you would want. And they even said in that walkthrough, they said they had been playing those games, but they released Ori 2 anyway. They, like, behind, like, the one guy was like, we actually play these all the time. It's just that we were doing Ori 2, and that was our focus. And now we're coming to this, which is what we've also wanted to make. So,
they also threw some shade on ARPGs. They're like, well, they all play the same, so we wanted to do something different.
I mean, at what point, if you're all in the dark, is shade even being thrown? Because all those fucking games play the same. Bro, they play the same since Diablo 1, and I loved those games. But they have not made... do you know how weird it is when people celebrated Last Epoch as like being easy for people to get into to play the same game you've been playing for 35 years? Like, that is a weird kudo to give, right? It's like, what? So the idea of them changing it up, and by the way, I'm sure somebody else has slightly tried this, but the idea of changing it up is cool to me. I love that. I mean, it might actually grab me more than the others. But I was going to say, Jay Reaper, $10 super chat. It can be rough when so many games come out. I don't like juggling multiple games. Jay, you say that, but I see every day in gaming chat, and you are by far the biggest juggler of games. So if you don't like to do it, you have become quite good at doing what you don't like, because he is easily... You'll be playing a game, he'll be deep into like Starfield, and you'll be playing a game, he's like, man, I really want to play that. And then 3 minutes later, you'll see the stream change to that game. You'll be like, dude. Neo Campbell, $5 super chat says, looking at Johnny's setup, he should either provide the podcast with background music, guitars, or dress up as a chess piece. I have no clue what the chess piece means.
I think because of the background, the chessboard like panels.
That's true.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That is absolutely true. That is perfect. Whoever said that, Neil, good job, man. That if I could refund super chats, I would, because that was well worth it just to say it on its own.
Good one.
There
was something just real quick about
absolutely
No Rest for the Wicked. I like the look of the combat, but there's something about having a stamina bar right on top of the character. With the circle, kind of similar to Zelda, I guess. That I personally really dislike, because it's the moment that's there. That's like the only thing I'm looking at.
You're focused, right?
My brain is just sort of unable to look at other stuff.
Would you rather like look at the corner like for it?
Yeah, because I've gotten used to look at it periodically, but that's not like my
even
focus.
The peripheral, like all you need is like the peripheral. Yeah,
or you even get a feel for it, don't you, over time?
Maybe you can change hopefully UI options,
I would love to be surprised about that, but there was something about that I just thought, dude, I'm just gonna be looking at that the whole time and not at the models,
I would agree that I have a tendency, if there's something to focus on, like and it's a life-saving situation, I will focus on it. I will focus on it. And I notice on big screens when it's over on the left, I do catch myself. Have you guys ever noticed, do you ever, I test myself all the time, because it's like as you get older, they're always like, your reflexes are going to change, blah, blah, blah. So I'll be playing a new game, and I'll look to see how fast my brain can parse my stamina in a game. So like I'll be playing a game for no reason, and then in my brain, I'm like, where was the stamina? Like what? Because I looked so quickly.
Like testing yourself.
Yeah, so the idea of these guys, and they're older guys, I could actually see them taking that into account. Oh, you got to look to the left. It's more, it draws you away. So let's put it in the center. But then you and I both have the exact same issue, where I have a tendency to beat in. If there's a giant thing that impacts my chance of living, that's fucking all I'm looking at. Like, what were you going to say, Abzi?
Neo did it so well, because key pulse was like the biggest thing in the game, but there was like a really good audio cue for it, and there was a really good like visual cue where in the game you'll see like the key kind of flowing around you and come back to you and stuff. Like, you did it in a very smart way, where by like a couple hours into the game, I just had, or not a couple, like 10-15 hours into the game, I was just like feeling it out. I wasn't looking at it as much,
I will say that also I have a tendency to try to figure out, like, oh, is there can I tell how hard I get hit by how far I went back, so I don't have to look? Yeah, I'm certainly looking at other things, but if it's a big yellow bar, I think my brain will just, no matter what, I'll be looking at the big yellow bar.
It's like the mini-map situation, or like
it's absolutely the mini-map situation. Also, I want to give kudos to a game. We don't give kudos to this until we talk about the game, but a lot of people talk about Ghost of Tsushima's wind and how good it is. I have to actually say, Dragon's Dogma did it first with those pawns. And when we're talking about them becoming the mini-map, when you're running around, because I was replaying number 1, and they talk a lot. Yes, they do repeat themselves, for Christ's sakes. Like, they do. But when they start drawing your attention to shit, I'm like, dude, I don't know if we give enough. We give the attention towards them helping us fight. But when you talk about the game world and like how much they would know about enemies and stuff, less so the locations, admittedly. But dude, they did it way before Ghost. Like, I was just looking at it yesterday going, oh, damn, Like, I always give them kudos, but I don't give them kudos in the same way. And they actually deserve kudos for probably being, who knows? Maybe the Ghost devs looked at that. I know they talked about they wanted a more organic way, but having your characters be that's fucking awesome,
I do have a question about that, because I didn't play Dragon's Dogma on release, but let's say me and you like played Dragon's Dogma 2, and I'm using your pawn, you're using my pawn. Do they learn stuff in real time?
Yeah. And so my pawns would be dumber if you started the game early. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, let's say I took your pawn, but I explored this way and you explored that way. Would your pawn learn stuff as you're playing? Or how does it work? Like, would your pawn learn from me?
So the pawn will take the data that they've learned from from you, and then it updates into the data pool. So whatever you're doing, but
In real time?
in real time, it doesn't update in real time because you don't send the pawn back in real time. It only updates when you pay off the pawn, when you're like, I'm done.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
and then all that stuff comes back in. Yeah, so it's not not a live service game in that way, I guess, is what you know what I mean? It's not like constantly pinging saying, Karak's pawn knows about rocks now, which would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had to do it, that'd be better. But I definitely think that they were ahead of their time. Like, I was just looking back on it yesterday going, oh, damn, they actually talk a lot about the places they are, more so the monsters. Wolves are afraid of fire or whatever. You do get a little tired of hearing that for the 400th time. But let's see. Abel says, hello, big fan, guys. Can you buy me a decent new phone? Negative. There's no such thing as a decent new phone. Sorry, I think phones are such a ridiculous upgrade path now.
I've never been like a phone guy. Like, I had friends that would update their phone or upgrade phones every year or whatever. Right. I buy a new phone like every 5 or 6 years. I don't really see much difference.
Either do I, dude. Right now I'm rocking the old Stylus 2 from LG.
Nice.
This is about 9 years old. Guess what it does? Makes calls and takes pictures. Exactly all you need from a cell phone. And I don't have a phone number, so it doesn't even make calls. But it does take pictures quite well. But yeah, you're right. I think some people use them for there was one of the guys in the chat, Solar, was saying that he doesn't have a PC. So he uses the phone, that is his PC, even for Word documents and stuff he's typing out, which
my
seems
brother
hard, but
was like gaming on my PS5, and then I took it away because Final Fantasy came out, but he started playing Fortnite on the PS4, but wanted to use the PS5 controller, so he did remote play on his phone, connected the PS5 controller to the phone, to the PS4, and it worked well with no input.
Wow. That is, by the way,
bought him a PS5, though.
That is awesome, because that is how I live my life. If I can figure out a way to warp something 20 times, I'll check the latency.
Dude,
but if I
can't,
instant I will.
Too. Like,
that's
no
cool.
Input lag.
That's cool. I love the idea of cheating it and being like, dude, what are you doing? It's like, well, I really just wanted to use this other controller. You're like, that's a Nintendo controller.
Yeah. Like how he worked backwards from the fact that he wanted to play with this controller.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, let's like backwards engineer this. How can I just, be able to...
I was impressed, man. Then I got him I got him a PS5, and then after he opened it and shit, I realized it was a slim, and I was like, oh shit, I should have maybe taken that and given you my old one. But I was like, okay, I'm not gonna take away something new I got him. Because I realize it's a little bit thinner.
I have a tendency to not buy tech for family, probably because I always think that tech is pretty personal to me, because like there might be 100 TVs, but I will take a long time to choose a TV.
I agree.
And my wife has problems during events where she's like, I don't know what to buy you, because like if I could buy what looks like the best webcam, and you're like, dude, why didn't you just buy a $70 webcam?
Yeah,
so
I agree.
You can't win. It's very hard to buy tech.
The only exception is if a family member is not very tech savvy. For example, my mom doesn't know a lot about TVs. She's gonna ask me anyway what TV she should buy. So maybe I'll get her a TV if it's Christmas.
Absolutely.
Or something.
Yep.
Because I would pick the TV out for her anyway. Right. Like,
plus my little brother, he's still in school and stuff. He doesn't have the means and shit. So plus, but I really want him to get into game, like anything.
I wasn't giving you shit for buying him something. I was just saying I don't, because I would mess it up. I would end up.
I'm just happy he's into
games.
Like, games, yeah.
I bought my parents
something other than the phone.
They wanted to stream TV. This was when streaming was becoming big. Your Amazons and your Primes. So. This was when I was doing really well at my last job. So I was like, okay, I'm going to buy him a TV. And I go and I get this TV. And it's a really nice TV. And it's fairly generic, pretty easy to get into. We leave my parents' house during Christmas. We leave, set up, running well, watching a show, works, volume. I am less than 30 minutes away from my parents' house, and I'm already getting tech calls. My dad's like, volume's not working on his TV. I'm like, no, he missed, like he figured out a way to like unconnect it from. So for weeks, man, channel 11 isn't working. I'm like, what the fuck is channel 11? I don't even know what that is. I'm streaming. It's Amazon. Yes. Yeah, and my parents they have an innate ability to, like, wherever they are the monkey wrench in whatever tool. I mean, it's really actually quite impressive how terrible they are. And we'll get them something, and I'll be like, there's no way to fuck this up. For example, we got them a wireless subwoofer. It is a 100% auto-connecting wireless subwoofer. The HDMI goes here, the other HDMI goes there. There's nothing else.
It stopped working.
It stopped working. And it stopped working for a year because I didn't go back home. So I go back home and I'm like, I bought you guys that subwoofer because you had these tinny speakers and stuff. And Dad's like, it was like the next day it stopped working. And then they feel bad for calling me, so they won't.
Yeah, of course.
So I've got multiple things and come back and been like, why is that over there? You're not even using it. Oh, yeah, it stopped working the next day. But how does it stop fucking working?
For me, using, like, if I were to use my dad's setup to watch something, I am the one that doesn't know how to change the volume because he has like a amplifier that needs to be changed to this, that's connected to that needs to, it's like, which one's the volume to which remote, like 4 remotes. It's like, dude,
we use a Fire Stick, and Fire Stick recently, Amazon changed the way they used to do it. You used to be able to see everything in your main dashboard, but because it's Netflix and Amazon competing, now you have to go into the Netflix app. You can still search for stuff, but it opens these separate ways. It's really confusing. And I'll just get a call. It'd be like 3 a.m. Jeremy, can you come show me how to get to Hulu? And it's not even there, by the way. On some of the things I'm looking for aren't there. There's not even a tile. You can't even get that tile. You have to go to a search, and then it'll pop. It's really convoluted on some TVs and some systems now, too. And then you don't know the stuff we already talked about, which service even has whatever you're looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, yeah.
It'd be like, okay, I want to watch it. It'll be like, you can get it at YouTube. You can get it at fucking Sling. You can get it on Purple. You can get it on Pluto.
You have regions,
you can get it on
like
regions. Wait, is it on UK Netflix?
Oh, how many times have I done a watch through in the Discord? I'm like, dude, let's everybody watch Fringe.
In Discord, and someone is talking about a new show. They're like, dude, this new show is like, okay, now I have to go on this charade to figure out where I can watch this damn thing.
And then you got people dropping
it's on Disney,
VPN.
but not on your Disney.
Like, you got to get a VPN, do ExpressVPN, then you got to click. Oh, it's free. Don't worry, just double click this.
VPN ad, and I'm pissed.
Oh yeah, that too. What I do is I just lose patience. I lose not patience, desire for whatever it was. It goes away. Like if I want to go to a movie and maybe something interrupts our plans to get to the movie, I am the guy who's like, done. I'm done. Like the pattern has been destroyed.
Yeah, because I just don't want to Lie to Me, which is a great show. It's lined up. I can just watch it easily. Like if I have to go through 3 hoops to watch this new thing you're telling me about,
it's probably not getting watched. Yeah,
it's not.
I guess it does sound like. It does sound so...
We're old men? Is that what it sounds like?
No, it doesn't even sound like old men because a lot of people buy games in this manner. I've seen people buy games because the other game is like another store. And you're like, dude, seriously?
Of course. So friction is a big deal for people.
Yeah, friction. It's just, I saw somebody on Microsoft yesterday, and by the way, rightfully so, this person was like, okay, so Dead Island 2 is on Game Pass, but it's not. It's only on the Xbox Game Pass. It's on the PC Game Pass. So they spent a bunch of time on the PC store looking for the PC Dead Island. Didn't buy. And you're like, dude, you run Windows, Microsoft. You run the actual world. Like, you are the entire window for seeing the world through a PC, and you can't get your store. Like, I guess I would just say up to snuff, up to like a certain general level. It's really stunning. And I don't think competitors want to spend the money to equal it, but at times I'm like, it would be interesting to see if a competitor came on and was like, here's a store that's like onomatopoeia. I don't know if you guys saw recently, but 2 competitors who are doing Kickstarters are making phones with AI as the OS. There's still an Android OS, but its front end isn't apps at all. It's basically just interacting with it on a verbal level and being like, play, blah, blah, blah. And it is trying to figure out if we're going to be able to go to this sort of soft OS where there's no, like you go into Xbox, it's just tiles everywhere. You go into the PS5, it's just tiles everywhere. It's like, will there be a time where you just go in and whether you're talking,
what I would love is like, hey, play Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah,
and it will figure out like what service. And
do you want to continue on this? You were 45 minutes through, Johnny.
It will say like, oh, I saw you have a Netflix subscription and it's available there in this region. let me VPN into it for you. Here's the show.
Let me VPN into it for you. There you go. That
Right?
I didn't even think about that. Imagine if one of these guys works a VPN in. They probably won't because they want you. They want to track you.
Maybe.
And where you, but it would be amazing.
The number of times someone said like, "Oh, this show is on Netflix," and it wasn't because it was on Germany Netflix or like,
and no one watches
Canada.
shows in Germany, right? I mean, we can agree on that. I'm just joking, but yeah, I get you. Yeah, the Germans aren't watching shows. Is all I'm saying. But it is weird, dude. I like the idea of VPN. I love the idea of that. I've been
just
noticing
figure it out for me. Like
the thing that creeps me out. So we've talked about this where I've sent DMs to people in Discord, and it's obvious Discord is reading those because I'll see an ad somewhere. But the even creepier one was we were thinking this was random. We were watching a show, and then later we would decide to watch another show, and 3 or 4 of the characters would show up, 3 or 4 of the actors. So my wife and I were going, oh, this was the same time frame. These are bit actors. They're jumping from show to show. It didn't even dawn on me until recently that I looked it up, and of course it's not doing that. It knows who's in those shows, and it subtly reminds you of new shows with the same actor popping up. And they were newer shows, but there's one called Will Trent that came out. It's like a detective show. It's pretty good, but like 3 of the actors were also in Lie to Me. So I'm watching Lie to Me, and I just keep seeing this ad for Will Trent, and I'm like, well, I don't even know. I've never heard of this show. It's 2 years old. I mean, it's still going. But I'm like, there's multiple. Why is it giving me this? I would never, it's not even my thing. And then it played a trailer when I didn't go away from it quick enough to watch Lie to Me. And in the trailer, I saw the actress who had been in an episode of Lie to Me. And I was like, well, that's weird. Maybe that's just like synergy. It's just like life, sort of showing you patterns. And then I jump in, and it's obvious that it's using AI to track all that. And it's like suggesting those things. Smart, right? I mean, we see it with games all the time.
I mean, it works, man. If you just watch the show that you really liked and you get suggested something with the same actor,
with Roth in it. Yeah, if Tim Roth shows up.
Tim Roth, you go, oh, dude, he did that. That's that's a great
I'll check this out.
Gateway, yeah, for sure.
It doesn't do it with porn, sadly enough, which is really bothersome.
If you like
if you're watching Tori Black
that
or
one.
Janet Jameson, man, that's some old style. She's been out for 25 years.
She's been around the block.
Yeah, no, I mean, she left the block. She's been out of like adult industry for like 20 years.
And out.
She bought the block with the money, man. There's been a long time. What else do we got? What else do we got? We got anything cool? Any cool tech stuff? Any cool, exciting TV shows?
Can we talk about Shogun quickly? So
that's what I was going to bring up.
FX show dropped, Shogun. It's like a Japanese Game of Thrones. The first episode, someone got pissed on and like someone got boiled. Okay, maybe that's a bit spoilery. I apologize. I shouldn't.
I mean, it's not really spoiler. I mean, and by the way, the original, it covers, it's exact shot for shot or almost shot for shot from the original show.
Yeah.
The original Shogun show. Yeah. But it's good so far, man. Yeah. Cinematography is amazing.
And the cast is just ace, man. The characters. It's such a cool, like, how much of a contrast there is between all the people in there. Because you have the Japanese guy who is this lord, right? And then you have the pirate guy. Yep. And then, like, just the contrast is really...
Yeah, it's really good. It reminds me of Last Kingdom with Uhtred, son of Uhtred. It reminds me of that show. The sort of period piece that goes and explores, like, that particular landscape.
And
but yeah,
speaking of having the same actor, by the way, the guy... Richard from Lost, if you remember.
Yeah,
Richard from
that guy
Lost.
Was sick. Yeah, he was
the guy
who
lived.
Became. Yeah, he lived for
a very
years
long time,
and he never aged. He's the guy that like you would see.
He was Jacob's assistant.
He was Jacob's right-hand man who would like tell everybody what to do, like Jacob's words.
And he would live through like several.
He's an amazing character in the show.
Ages.
Yeah, he had like a very heartbreaking
short
story.
black hair.
Oh, him!
Very. Yeah, you remember him?
Yeah, I absolutely don't remember him from Lost, but he has been in a lot of shows as like a bad guy. Sometimes he's got a greasy look to him. Sometimes, yeah,
and he's like transformed in this show. But at the same time, I immediately recognized him. Yeah, and I was like, oh, dude, it's
It's Richard.
And he's so great in this as well.
It's Richard.
Yeah.
Hey, Richard, how you doing?
The pirate guy is great.
Overall, it's an awesome movie or awesome show with awesome cinematography, and it's already better than all the Lord of the Rings episodes combined.
Dude, yeah. And they nailed the feeling of the outsider or like the foreigner. Because so often in these shows, it feels like the person speaking English is actually at home in a weird way.
Right.
Because the show is, American or whatever. But here they do a great job of showing you, no. Like, this is Japan. And they show you the customs and everything. It makes a lot of sense.
I also, Johnny, I don't know if you've got to this part. This is just society in general and their culture, our culture and everything. So it's not a spoiler, but it is cool in Shogun, the original and Shogun, this one, they show that though they call people barbarians and we call them barbarians, they both have insanely barbaric practices. And so the boiling alive thing is like a really good indicator of no matter how clean you are, no matter how fastidious you are on, your garden, you just boiled somebody alive. Like, dude, can we all agree that that's not a cool thing to do?
Right?
Mm-hmm.
They have their castles where, it's the sand stuff, and it's like, the little teapots and the tiny soup.
I don't know about you guys, but that's what I love about video game or book world sci-fi, when you have like a sci-fi race that shows up. Like, I love the Covenant because they were religious, and they were like, their entire way of well, not the entire way, but a lot of the way they did things, you sort of understood. You were like, they were religious. He's even the little guys call him a demon sometimes. And there's this like different dogmatic thought. And then you have the Flood, which is completely different. And then you have the actual.
I love that. Like, that's one of the biggest things
that
for Stargate.
World building,
like, there's
man.
the replicators, the Goa'uld, the Ori, like. Yeah, and it's all these different factions.
The one who pretends to be Thor, the Odin, what are those guys called? The Asgardians. Yeah. I love that kind of stuff, and they do it in Shogun.
They all interact. I love when they interact. Like, oh my god, the replicators are killing the Goa'uld now, and there's like a three-man thing going on.
That's the best part about good storytelling in a video game too, is when they dive into like why a culture is the way it is. Even if sometimes they say the alien thing where you can't figure it out, where it's like, oh, it's highfalutin, like they're too far advanced. Even that sort of works for me. But I love it in good sci-fi books. Sometimes let's say a book will be about empires, and they'll talk about one, and then they'll dive in, and it'll jump to somebody. Like he said, Japanese garden. I don't know why that's triggering this thought, but like a thought of like the day-to-day random traditions that another alien race thinks are normal, or thinks as entertainment, or thinks as relaxation, and then you're like, seriously, dude, that's horrendous. I love the meeting of those cultures. Wait, what's going on? Big Mac's talking about suddenly we just had ulcerative colitis in our colitis. Boy, we must have really lost
people
everybody's.
People are talking about colonoscopy.
I guess we really lost people's focus when we started talking about Shogun. I apologize, guys. I apologize. I'm gonna still talk about it though. What other stuff is going on right now? Is there any cool tech? Is there any cool science stuff? The two that I
someone mentioned a prostate exam, and I have to say I'm extremely disappointed with technology that
it hasn't advanced.
We've come this far, and we still need a bloke to pop his finger in there.
We need a bloke to pop his finger in there. There needs to be a rap like the. You need a bloke to pop his finger in there.
Can we put some minds on that problem?
I think with a lot of medical stuff, dude, like cancer is definitely improved in many ways,
like,
but there's some of the times you got to get in there and root around. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you got to be like, dude, I got to put on my pants, my big boy pants, and I got to dive in there. It's also such a weird moment too when you go into a doctor. I'm so accustomed to being like, so I've got a cut here. Can you like stitch that up or whatever? And then at some point you go in and you're like, so how you doing?
Do you think people really want to become that type of doctor, or is it one of those fallback options?
I don't know but I know that the one
I really want to be that type of doctor. I really want.
The guy who helped my great grandfather and my grandfather both, when they both had prostate cancer, he did because his dad had died of it. So he absolutely, that was a thing. Like he was Like, as I joked with my dad, that guy liked to put his finger up people's butts because he wanted to verify you weren't going to die. It was a big deal to him. So he was like that. I would say it's rare most of the time. Like a sewer worker, the idea probably isn't there, but when you find out what they make or something, you know, because in some places they make a lot because it's a terrible job, then they may, you know, some people can ignore that shit. I mean, I have friends who do some really hard labor. And they don't really see it as hard labor. You know, they come home and
in a weird way, if you can become good at something that nobody wants to do.
If you're good at sticking your finger up people's butts and feeling for cancer, then, dude, you have a small section of competition. Right?
That's such a small
We have a lot of network engineers in our Discord. Maybe some of you guys should learn how
Isn't that why, like, I heard this a long time ago. I might be completely wrong, but isn't that why, like, garbage collectors earn, like, a higher wage?
They do here, at least, yeah, because it's considered like a distasteful job, and so it's harder to get people to come in. But you know what's weird here, Abzi? They stay a long time too. So once they do get into it, I think they get accustomed to it. And I know our garbage man when I was growing up was the garbage man until I was 8. I mean, I literally left, and every day that the garbage was picked up, it was the same guy every time. So like that guy was doing that job.
Do you think they get a kick out of skipping a person's property? Like not picking up randomly?
Wow, that's chaotic. Do you think that there's guys that purposely skip just to get a high?
Because I have a glass.
I love that idea.
Whoa. And sometimes I swear they just like skipped my house or a neighbor's house.
What if there's a guy with just a power trip, right? He's up late at night and he's like, fuck Johnny's house, man. Fuck that Johnny, dude.
That house looks fancy.
That house looks too fancy. I'm skipping. You could hold on to your trash. I love the idea that you think, I mean, it's possible, and I'm sure it's happened just by sheer numbers.
I think it's like sheer paranoia from my side.
The idea of some dude who's just got his feet up, who's like, Johnny's house? Fuck him. He ain't getting his garbage picked up for a week. That would be rough, too, man. Especially if you put your garbage out and the next day you do go by and they have forgotten you and you're like, oh no, because you're returning the garbage to your home.
There?
Yeah.
Am I a joke to you? Like,
you take it all personal. You're out on your front in your boxers. In your robe? Am I a joke to you? With your little coffee cup. Shit has degenerated here. What else do we got before we wrap it up? Do we have anything cool that's been going on in anybody's lives? Any amazing?
I started watching Always Sunny for the first time in my life.
You like it?
Philadelphia or?
Dude, they are. I like it, but it's what do you call those? It's like the most dislikable. Humor. It's like the main characters. It's like an anti-sitcom where like the main characters are just really bad people, but you still kind of
like what I like about the British Office.
What I do. Yeah, but what I do like about it is like the dialogue feels very improv-y and kind of real and kind of like not too proper, so people are like talking over each other and shit, and it's funny that way. I like it. Yeah, it's a very different show. I don't think I've ever seen a show like it.
Okay, is it like Meeting the Parents, that kind of distasteful humor where it's like really uncomfortable?
It's kind of like these people are so dumb and have like no care for anyone else in the world that they do the stupidest and most heinous shit to other people, and you're just watching like a train wreck happen, and each time it's like a different thing, but they do some like funny ass shit. It's like hey, let's do a musical, and they do a musical, but it's
rude or something.
But it's very edgy. It's very like it's very edgy. But it's still going. Like I'm only on season 5, but there's like 15 seasons or something. Like
is that the Danny DeVito one?
Still going. Yeah, Danny DeVito's in it. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is like I will like them. If I find myself hating the main characters, I won't watch it because I'll just get mad that they're allowed to live. Like they'll do something terrible, and I like revenge movies because the guy who does something terrible usually gets his comeuppance. But in a TV show, if it sounds like they do terrible stuff, I think at some point I would get angry.
It's like where The Office, for example, was like awkward and stuff, but like there's redeeming qualities to people, and you want them to succeed and they become better over time. And these guys is like, nope, we are the worst people ever. We're bad to each other. But it's just they get themselves in the most hilarious, weird, crazy situations. It's like, how do you even come up with this shit?
Did you watch the other one with Chevy Chase, Community? I think it was called Community.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Community. I saw bits, but
Chevy Chase's character is like that too, where it's like just he's funny, but he's like a bad person, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a tendency to really pick and choose. Like, I can handle Brooklyn Nine-Nine, though he does terrible things to people. He's always just trying, you know? So it's like I can deal with that. But if characters after a while come across as just getting away with shit, I'm usually hoping they're going to get nuked.
Get away. They don't get away with
there's a positive there, you know?
They don't.
Portlandia? Did you ever watch Portlandia? That's another one I think that's in this kind of frame. Usually these edgy ones don't grab me.
Yeah, but it's not like American. It's not like too much. It's not like American Pie or something, you know. It's less than that. But it's still like there's you know it's on the line. Like it's good. Like, you know, I don't know how it is now though. I'm excited to see how it is. There, like the last season was released like last year or something. I'm excited to see how the humor has changed because, dude, some of the humor like has like I don't see it flying, you know, today. So I want to see if they still do that type of shit or not. Because there's like, you know, there's humor about, you know, racism and humor about like pedophilia, like just a lot of different shit. So,
well, remember, I mean, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that's why they stopped. And I found that really a sad state of affairs. Yeah, the cop thing. And I was like, especially because it sounded like even Terry Crews, all those people were like, let's still try to figure out how to navigate this.
Oh, remember the last season? How
the last season was, dude, the last season was, it was like watching a show that wasn't, it was like an alternate world in some sci-fi show where everybody looks like a little weird.
And it's like,
and I was just watching it going like, what is this show? It's completely lost any sort of identification of itself, which is like Saints Row did in the last Saints Row game, where it just, except I didn't really have any hope for that game. Where with Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I was really surprised that last season. It was just, it really lost anything. It was weird. But it happens, you know. I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, they were scrambling. There was COVID and the politics in America.
I always forget about that.
Politics in America went like out of nowhere. So fast.
Once people figured out they could make a living from it, and really you know, it just
posing
everything.
As a socialist making money.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy now. Where you have to really identify what. I mean, even some people I know, where I'm like, dude, I don't. Sometimes I'm just like, yeah, this doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem anything like you. It
I'm
seems
a political
like
pundit. I'm gonna turn on stream and talk.
That's why I hate politics. Well, I don't really hate it. I just don't really have much to say about it other than I hate it. So I guess there you go. Yeah. I do have something to say about it. I entered the waters to say I despise it.
I feel like you see a lot now. The people, especially with Twitter and everything, they've kind of like made their own bubbles, and it's like all echo chambers, and everyone's just
Or when people made threads and were like, "Man, look we're gonna do our own thing." It's like you're literally telling people where you're going. That would be like escaping raiders in a video game and leaving a note and a map to where the fuck you are going to hide out next. Like, how goddamn stupid do you have to be like, we're all going over here? Well, fuck, do you think that they don't understand how to sign in, jackass? Like, you're so stupid. You should make yourself a little forum somewhere, you know, like hide out in this forum and have a secret code word. But instead, they're like, the code word was go over here. It was, and by the way, go to Instagram, which, let's be honest, you know, that's a terrible idea.
Yeah, how is Threads? Is it still like?
It is
going?
Pretty dead, man. It is like like I'll see the major producers, like a YouTube, you know, or somebody post and they're like 120 likes or whatever. You're like, damn, you know. It's one of those things where the only real creation that works right now is one that is created out of the blue and not driven, because people who feel the drive will step away, and that's half the people you want. You do want people who are slightly apathetic, weirdly enough, because those are the people who like will just sort of fill it with stuff. They'll be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. If you go with an idea, any idea you have, there is always a percentage of people against that idea. So if I'm like anti-cancer, there is somebody out there who would be like, actually, cancer is, and you're just like, oh my God.
I think that did happen at one point, right? Where someone was like, actually, cancer made me enjoy my life more because I.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure there's always, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. There's always somebody against it. But
yeah,
that's why I take social media super, super, super serious. So check me out at Jeremy Penner on Twitter. Super serious. Every single post, 100% factual.
The first letter of every word of every post.
Knock it. Shut up. What are you doing? Okay, that's pretty out there, but yes, that is true. For a while, that was the thing. And that one motherfucker in our Discord was sending me pictures of all the sentences circled, and he's like, "That says Sea of Thieves." I'm like, "God damn it! Don't post it in the Discord if you figure it out." That was fun. Karak doesn't like Silver for this reason. No, I love Silver for this. We have a good time. Silver always has well thought out actualities. Doesn't mean I agree with him. Sometimes I know he's taking the piss on me. I know that Silver goes home. We're all like, okay, everybody, bye-bye. He turns it off, and Silver's like, mission accomplished. You know he is. Is that all we got for the day? Is that it?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Man, it's been a good time. Wednesday was skipped. People wanted me to talk about Nintendo was suing the emulator.
Yuzu.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Nintendo's, it is what it is. Yeah.
What is your stance on do you think Yuzu's in the right? I think about it, aside from like all the legal loopholes, like you're emulating a console that's in circulation right now. Do you think it's a morally,
no, there's no morals about it. There's no morals about it. You did, there's no morals. There's no morals. You did it. It is technically, what they're doing. If it's technically legal, it's illegal. There's no moral to it. To me, at least, there's no moral to that, especially because it's current and all that kind of stuff. Once you start getting 20 or 30 years in, I don't know the rules and the legalities and all that stuff. You start getting into a weird moral thing where people will say, I can't buy it anymore, therefore I can steal it, which is a really weird thing to say out loud. It's a very odd thing to be like, well, I can't get it.
My stance switched on it. It's like my stance switched on emulators around a lot, where I keep thinking about it from time to time, and it's like, it still feels kind of weird,
shady.
Shady, yeah.
I mean, and I use emulators for like Apple II and stuff like that. Well, I have an Apple II, but I mean, I still use emulators on PC if I want to play. There's a couple Apple II games I like. There's just a difference in time, and then I think anybody who is like trying to really explain morals, usually then over time there's some monetary reason why that pops into it, and it starts getting really shady really quick, and it's just like, but for them,
because it's like everyone goes like, hey, well, buy the game, you could load up the ROM,
buy the game, then put it on your emulator. Basically,
we know a lot of people just torrent like a bunch of ROMs and shit.
Dude, whenever I see anybody in our Discord say,
like, I did the ROM myself,
I bought the game, now I'm playing it. I'm just like, yeah, sure, man. I mean, it's like, whatever, dude. At the time, it's like, doth protest too much kind of stuff. It's like, at some point, it is what it is. For them, I don't know anything about what they're doing and what they're, cracking copyrights is illegal. I know that. Or, cracking the DRMs. That in particular can be illegal. Nintendo Switch, the hardware. Remember when Nintendo Switch was able to be hacked really easy, and then they did the hardware revision? And that one was more difficult.
Mine is still the old one where you can put like a thing where you can short.
It's like
you just short the one. And then you go into the BIOS.
It was like, I still remember when the Xbox original was originally hacked, so many steps. And then by the time it was done, you could buy a USB, plug it in, load the game, and it would actually take the entire USB contents and make a new OS for you. Like, it would just do all this. And or like you were saying, the 360 where you could buy it off the store shelf. Not a Fred Meyer or something, but a hardware store, and it had games already on a LCD digital display, King Kong, whatever. You just pick the game. It's like, dude, everybody knows that's not legal, but yeah, it is what it is. I think them being sued, I don't know anything about how Nintendo goes after emulator companies. I do know Nintendo goes after a lot of people, so I guess my big question is that, or not question, but my thought is, wow, that's pretty late. Like,
it is very late. And there's another one, Ryujinx, and I don't know what's happening with them, if they're gonna go after them after, or
I wonder, is it possible, guys, that because this is, by the way, this is fucking UFO shit. This is like next level fringe paranoia.
Putting our tinfoil hats.
Put a tinfoil suit on. What if it's possible that they're doing this now because the Switch 1 and 2 are backwards compatible, and they're worried those will be that the Switch 2 will be more easily hacked.
Crazy of a
and so they're hitting them now. Like, I'm
crazy
like,
of a conspiracy.
I guess it's not, but in my brain I was like, oh, but it does.
No, it
seem
makes sense.
Weird timing, right? Like, it's like,
yeah, it makes sense. It makes complete sense, I think.
I will say that they've gone a long ways, man. I remember when an emulator, you just never knew what it was going to run. I've seen videos of people playing Sega Saturn, which used to be a difficult one because it had the 2 processors. That was always really hard. And then now, obviously pretty much perfect. But Dreamcast and remember when, was it PlayStation 2? There was one that's got a name that sounds like PSN Plus. I can't remember, but it's one emulator that I remember for the longest time they couldn't get a lot of PS2 games. And then, somebody in their team figured it out, and it was like this big explosion of like, holy shit, a lot of games just instantly became
the PSCX2 or whatever.
Yeah, PS what? PSCX?
PSCX2. Yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah, and I remember that just sort of exploding.
PCSX2.
Yeah,
I mean, tried the PS3 one because to play that Dragon Guard 3 many times, and
Dragon Guard 3. Why would you
crash? Because I love Nier, and I've never played the old ones, So
all right, that's like somebody in the future hacking some to play Saints Row. It's like, what? Like, that's a lot of work for very little return. But I also remember I was at my house and my friend Richard had come over and he had what looked like an N64 controller, and it had RCAs out the back, and you would plug this into your TV's RCAs, and the game controller was the emulator, and you could play like 200 games on it and so. And I don't believe it was N64 games. I think it was a couple gens prior, but it was in the form factor, and I was like, man, we're going places. Cool. I don't know if you guys saw that. There's a Kickstarter that just came out that is that. The controller is the entire system. HDMI's come out of it, and it's like, it's fully... It's
like so. Ouya?
Ooh. Man, is that what that was? No, Ouya was a small box, console. I think. Yeah,
but this is more when I think of that, does it run? Does it run?
Well, it runs using that AMD APU that happens to be so popular because it is powerful.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the one like one step below the ROG and stuff like that, which is still very powerful.
Hot in your hands?
I'm sure it will. Not only that,
you're gonna move it a lot.
I liked the idea of it until I flipped the little render around, and they showed the triggers and bumpers, and I was like, they are the worst designed triggers and bumpers I've seen in my life. I saw them, and I was like, instantly like, nope, not happening.
Dude, and the thought of an HDMI cable there, and you're moving
or
that...
USB-C, I assume, but yeah, and you're moving it.
Okay. Yep. Well, even worse, because that thing is loose as hell, right? Like a USB-C.
Yeah, wireless would be, it probably has wireless in it, so you could screen mirror and stuff, but you're still going to have a delay of, it's just, it's a good idea. That is where I think handhelds, well, they won't all go because handheld means screen, but I think there probably is maybe it's a small market. It's a small
almost
market.
Like a Fire Stick, but for games.
Fire Sticks are great though, man. You plug a $19 Fire Stick in, sign in, and you've got, they're not perfect, but it's pretty crazy. I was doing GeForce on it, just going like, so for $19 plus a GeForce account, I'm able to just jump in and play a bunch of Steam games at like 120 frames. Well, that one only goes to 60, but 60 frames per second delivered.
4K,
pretty pristine,
right?
Yeah, dude, it's ridiculous,
not
man. Not
the stream, but yeah.
Well, still better a lot of times than a handheld would do at 1080p or chuggy frame rates. I mean, there's shit. I've seen people. I mean, I still have. I was telling you guys, it's now at 5. But originally, I had 3 friends that had no system at all, none. They use GeForce Now and a remote PC, and now I have 5 that use GeForce Now and no PC at all. They just buy their games and they play them if they come out on GeForce Now. They're not the deep gamer like we are. But with just a couple streaming services, some of them without the need for hardware. It's just like, dude, that's pretty wicked,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be it for us. I want to thank everybody for showing up and taking this trip around Jenna Jameson.
I went to prostate exams, rubbish collectors.
Garbage collectors, Johnny yelling in his underwear. at his house, piracy, Helldivers, Dragon's Dogma, companies being laid off. A lot of shit. For a Friday, it's pretty busy. I want to say thanks to everybody who sat with us through Friday. If you get a chance, go check out the review that I did for Expeditions. I almost called it Exhibitions, probably because of the porn conversation. But I reviewed that. You'll see some more reviews coming for me, some more top 10s, or I don't want to call them that, top lists for the games that come out. If you get a chance, rate the channel. But most importantly, Johnny plays live on Twitch every single Saturday morning at 6 a.m. my time, right? 6 a.m. my time, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Eastern. 9 a.m. for the people on the East. They don't matter. East Coast doesn't matter.
And by the way, I had a crack at making a video review on my channel, if you want to look at it, about the Sons of the Forest game.
Oh,
that
Sons
we
of the Forest,
about today.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's doing that. And tomorrow he is streaming what?
Honestly, I'm at a loss, Karak. I don't know if I want to stream Final Fantasy or if I'll stick.
Yeah, don't do it straight up. Do not do it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a good.
It's for you, dude. You've been waiting for years. You told me it was coming out, and I told you were stupid. You win.
True. It's here.
You won the bet.
My one victory, I'll claim.
Yeah. You should,
it's
dude.
good.
It's awesome. Yeah. I love that you get to play.
I think I'll be playing some Helldivers, and what I like to do, I like to be like a fallen angel from the sky. I join people, usually from my friends list. So if someone, feel free to add me, in the Discord or something. I'll jump in and I'll help people who are struggling. I'll come in with my amazing
with his stratagems,
laser detonation stratagem, and just it feels good to help people out.
Feels good to give.
Yeah.
It's good to give. Yeah, I don't think you should. I think you should stream Helldivers if you're going to stream anything, or maybe Yakuza. But I think, dude, you're invested in Final Fantasy, and even myself, I certainly wouldn't want to stream that. And I'm not as invested as you are. I just think that's for you.
Yeah.
Like take it at your own pace and do the things you were talking about, walking around the city and stuff. You know what it's going to be like, dude. There's going to be some jackass in your stream who's like,
vibe. Yeah.
Walk faster.
Why is he walking in town?
Why is he walking all the time? It's like it's not running all the time, so I can choose what I want to do, jackass. Yeah. I think it would be cool to have you just play it on your own and sort of be separate from that. And then you could also do a second playthrough,
True.
With everybody else.
Hard mode, I think they changed some stuff up in hard mode, I heard. Like
did they?
There's some extra content or something.
Oh, I do know that
and
the card game
plus hard mode.
There's specific characters for the hard game. Sorry, card game.
Yeah.
Queen's
or
Blood.
You can play Aerith only, which is hard mode in and of itself. Dude, I switched to Aerith and I'm getting smoked.
Dude, there's a ward you get from a weapon that makes all her shots like laser beams. And it's sick, dude.
We're talking about Uppercut Lady? No, you're talking about Magic User. I thought you were talking about what's her name? Ward,
and she has
is it Tifa?
She has a really cool like teleport ability.
Yeah, that thing is awesome. That thing is sweet. Yeah.
And you can time it well to like counter and shit.
I still haven't figured it out, man.
It is difficult to figure out, but if you do figure it out, like you can teleport behind enemies as they're coming. Okay. So like they'll leap, like bigger enemies will be leaping at you, and you're like, and it's pretty sweet, man.
All right,
it's pretty cool.
It's like Black Mage from FF14. Like you could. It's really cool. Yeah.
Boy, mentioning two things I've never experienced. I don't know what a Black Mage is, and I did not. I've never played that game.
Experience Black Mage. But
you haven't? But you're a Final Fantasy 14 fan, right? You do the MMO.
I did. I wouldn't say I'm a fan.
I have misrepresented you on multiple occasions then, because for some reason have thought you played a bunch. I think it's a
good game. I don't like the tab selecting gameplay.
MMO gameplay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But it is a good game. Yeah.
All right, seriously, we're going.
Let's get out of here.
Thank you, everybody. Jana Jemison plays hard mode. Man, you're totally wrong. You guys just don't even know your adult movie stars. You I don't know what to say, man. I don't know what to say. I don't know if you should, though. So anyway, that'll be it for us. I hope everybody has an awesome week. Peace out and enjoy it.
Bye-bye.
And this time, I want to